Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening. He took a step forward and said angrily, "Hey, what kind of talk is that?" The gazes of the Cypher Pal 1 agent member and Commodore Langman turned towards him. "Yes, I did buy a mermaid, but Marquis Albut of Goa Kingdom bought her at Sabati Archipelago and then resold her to me. The entire process was reasonable and legal, so she is my property. By what right do you demand her?" Prince Lyle was naturally unwilling. He hadn't finished having his fun with that mermaid yet, and even if he did get tired of her someday, he could resell her to the nobility of other nation and still make a profit. Reasonable and legal? The Cypher Pal 1 agent member looked coldly at Prince Lyle. Slave trade was prohibited by the world government's law a long time ago. Hey, there are so many slave company and slave auction house on Sabati Archipelago, and we haven't seen you shut them all down. Slave transaction has long been a fact tacitly accepted by everyone, including your world government and Marines. Prince Lyle laughed in anger. Tacit acceptance is not acknowledgement. If we pursue it, your purchase of a mermaid violates the world government's law. So, are you deciding to refuse to cooperate with our work and then take a trip to an ICE lobby with us? As the Cypher Pal 1 agent member posed this question, Commodore Langman's tiger-like eyes beside him became sharp. He completely disregarded the dozen or so royal guard around the main hall. "You! Enough!" Prince Lyle still wanted to argue, but at this moment, King Sinal Revi on the platform roared to stop him. Then he turned and ordered a royal guard soldier. "Go bring that mermaid out and send her to the port to be handed over to the Marines." "Yes, Your Majesty." "Royal Father." Prince Lyle was furious. "Since that is the case, we shall take our leave." Seeing that the matter was settled, the Cypher Pal 1 agent member and Commodore Langman turned and walked out of the Royal Palace Hall without any delay. They were also rushing to 2 other nations to demand fishman slave. "Royal Father, why? We are affiliated countries of the world government, and we pay our heavenly tribute on time every year. What would happen if we just didn't give them a mere mermaid? Would they dare to seize her by force?" Prince Lyle was trembling with anger. Seized by force? King Sinal Revi didn't expect his son to be so foolish. He sneered. "They have an order from the 5 elders in their hands. Why wouldn't they dare? What do you think that Commodore Langman is here for? To go against the world government just for one mermaid? I see it now. If the throne, position, is ever truly passed to you, this nation will sooner or later face national destruction." Chapter 25, Meteor Volcano in Mock Town. Clouds were rolling and swirling, and the wind was howling and roaring. Huge waves rose from the sea's surface from time to time, surging forward in rows, smashing towards the huge warships that seemed overly presumptuous to them. However, no matter how the sea waves kept coming one after another, they could only smash into pieces repeatedly, watching helplessly as the 3 warships met the next wave. "Vice Admiral Akanyu, could we please try to avoid shelling Mock Town? Our people and the zoologists also need a place to live, and the houses there are just right for use." On the warship's deck, a Cypher Pal 5 agent personnel looked at the extremely tall figure with justice on his back before him, swallowing nervously. It wasn't that he was timid. To be fair, he was usually someone everyone feared when he was out and about. But this person's style of action, along with that powerful strength and terrifying ability. Even he felt a bit intimidated. A place full of pirates, or even a place specifically serving pirates, is too dirty. You want to live in such a dirty place? Akanyu stood in front of the triple-barreled turret. Behind him, 3 large-caliber dark gun barrels pointed directly forward. But his cold words carried great weight, showing no politeness towards the other party at all. "Don't think about it. Burn it all down. By then, I'll have your administrative department come over and build a clean place to live." That Cypher Pal 5 agent personnel opened his mouth at these words, but was stunned and didn't dare to refute anything. He could only shake head helplessly and walked back to the cabin. Akanyu ignored him, his gaze burning as he looked at the small island gradually appearing on the sea level, a terrifying cold smile on his face. "Humphrey, Mock Town. Right under our Marine headquarters nose, such a land of sin actually appeared. This time, not a single one will escape. He didn't even consider catching them alive and sending them to an ICE lobby for trial. Such a large piece of meat must be devoured completely. Kill them all. Burn it all down. Inside Mocktown, as evening approached, sea ships flying various kinds of Jolly Rogers successively sailed into the port, just like homing seabirds. One by one, fierce-looking individuals with dark tan skin, big and burly, either carrying a long saber on their waist, or tucking a musket, or even having daggers tied to their ankles, surged into the town, shouting arrogantly, and then dispersed to the various bars, restaurants, and brothels. Mocktown during this period had not yet been occupied by the Don Quixote family. Therefore, compared to the future, it was even more chaotic and dangerous. On a long street, just casually glancing inside, one could see 3 or 4 figures lying in a pool of blood, and it was unknown if they were dead or alive. There were also 2 or 3 groups of people fighting, and it's likely that before long, another one would be lying on the ground. But facing all this, the men and women coming and going showed no surprise at all. Instead, they were shouting and cheering, egging them on and urging them to quickly kill one. So they could use blood and death as side dishes for their alcohol. However, everyone failed to notice a red figure walking up the small mountain slope not far away, overlooking the sturdy small town from above. This person was naturally Marine Headquarters Vice Admiral, Admiral Candidate, Sakazuki, titled Akinyu. In order to ensure the complete annihilation of all pirates, he alone left the warship, took a detour using moonwalk, and stepped onto the land of Jaya Island. His mission was to focus everyone's attention on him. During this time, the 3 headquarters warships would take the opportunity to approach, surround, and completely seal off any chance of escape. Sakazuki raised both arms high, clenching his hands into fists. Following this, from his fists to his entire forearms, they gradually turned red and became hot, emitting thick black smoke. The surrounding air temperature rose sharply, especially the killing intent in his gaze, which almost solidified into a menacing glare. Meteor volcano. This was his strongest technique at his current stage, a secret technique developed after his ability awakening. First, he compressed a large amount of magma in his shoulders. Then, using his arms as gun barrels, he shot magma bullets one by one into the high altitude. During this process, these magma bullets would continuously expand. When they reached the highest point and fell down, they would transform into super large magma masses, one by one, like scorching meteorites. However, this time he controlled the number and range. Otherwise, if he were to unleash his full firepower, he could completely cover a large city or the entire island of a small country. What he currently lacks to reach the true highest combat power is just a level of hockey. To be honest, among the current 3 admiral candidates, in terms of strength, Sakazuki is the undisputed strongest. Simply because he performs high-intensity martial arts training every day. This is something that Borsellino and Kuzan are far from being able to compare to. Inside Mocktown, some drunken pirates, shoulder to shoulder, hazily noticed streaks of gunfire flash rising into the sky in the distance. It was now evening, and compared to a few dozen minutes ago, the sky had gotten a bit darker. But the sunset was still bright, so that gunfire flash was not very obvious. "Burp brother, what do you see there?" Seems like fireworks. Someone setting off fireworks, looks pretty good, heh. Fireworks. Aren't these usually set off at night? What's the point of setting them off now? More and more people noticed the situation on the distant mountain slope. Until the first person subconsciously looked up at the sky and saw the flaming meteorites emerging from the clouds. He, who hadn't reacted yet, was a bit stunned. But soon his eyes widened more and more, and the look of panic on his face grew stronger and stronger. The next moment, extremely piercing screams rang out. Meteorites. All at once, heads were raised. Within the sight of the men and women on the street, fireballs of almost indescribable size appeared one by one, falling towards where they were. Boom! It was chaos, complete chaos. Everyone started to scream, flee, and desperately run towards the port. Some pirates didn't even think about calling out to the captain and associates inside the tavern. They only cared about saving their own lives. But as soon as these quick-footed people approached the port, they discovered that this place was also in chaos. Warships. The Marines are here. 3 Marine headquarters warships. Oh my god, it's over, it's all over, it's too late. A nearly 50-year-old pirate slumped onto the ground despairingly. They truly didn't expect that this mock town, which had been peaceful for over a decade, would actually have such a day. If they had known earlier, they wouldn't have come. At the same time, 7 or 8 meteor volcanoes successfully landed, and bursts of booming explosion sounds continuously rang out. Some smashed into the tavern, some smashed into the restaurant, and some even directly hit the brothel where men and women were enjoying themselves. Large areas of rolling magma surged in all directions like sea waves. That magma, far more terrifying than natural magma, devoured everything and all life around it like demons from the abyss. At once, screams, wails, crying, and other sounds full of despair rose and fell, one after another. Even though there were only 7 or 8 magma meteorites, for this small mock town, it was more than enough. Magma, like flowing water, flowed freely and permeated the streets, making it difficult to find a foothold. Not only that. The 3 headquarters warships had already taken their positions, with their broadside facing the direction of Mock Town. Each ship, with 12 large-caliber cannons plus 1 triple-barreled anti-aircraft turret, spewed out glowing red, burning hot cannonballs one by one. Huge explosion fireballs completely covered the entire port. Every moment, pirate ships engulfed in flames were sinking into the seabed. If him could see this scene, he could easily see that the power of these cannonballs completely surpassed the same type of cannonballs from his previous life. Each one could be compared to Tomahawk cruise missiles. It is said that the War Beast-class naval ships specifically used for executing buster calls have even greater cannonball power. It's just that its range is a bit too short. The other end of Jaya Island. Montana Blank Cricket, with a chestnut on his head, looked from afar at that bright gunfire flash, listening to the sounds of terrifying large explosions. He hurriedly brought Gorilla and Orangutan and escaped by ship, thinking in his heart to come back and see after some time. Thus, he could be considered to have avoided this great disaster. I'm not even asking for recommendation tickets anymore, I just want you guys to pop up. Chapter 26, Aokiji visits Drum Kingdom. The world was a vast expanse of white, with snowflakes fluttering continuously in the cold wind. The entire island, adorned with snow, looked like it was covered in a pristine white carpet. The mountain range formed by the connected snow mountains highlighted the 8 towering peaks that pierced the clouds, making them incredibly magnificent. This place was the Drum Kingdom, one of the affiliated countries under the world government. An extremely typical winter island located in the first half of the Grand Line. Even though snowflakes were falling at this moment, this was already considered relatively rare good weather for this nation. At least the wind today was quite gentle. On the dock, the current King Arnold, with purple hair, wearing a white fur hat and thick winter clothes, glanced at the armed soldiers responsible for security around him and gave endless instructions to the officials behind him. Is everything ready? The world government's visiting ship will arrive in half an hour. There must be no mistakes. The official bowed and scraped, quickly replying. Your Majesty, please rest assured. There will be absolutely no accidents on the way from here to the main peak. The carnivorous rabbit lippins have already been lured 5 kilometers away with raw meat and definitely won't be back within a few hours. The cable car is also ready, it has been checked many times and there are no problems. What about those 2 boys? Why aren't they here yet? King Arnold asked with some displeasure. Well, Prince Mushal and Prince Wapal felt it was too cold outside. After all, the 2 princes are only 5 or 6 years old this year, they are indeed still young. The official replied awkwardly. Cold? King Arnold scoffed. Didn't they still have snowball fights outside the castle when it was even colder than this? Who are you trying to fool? They just find waiting here too boring. Forget it, I won't bother with them. He had originally wanted to bring his 2 sons to welcome them, hoping to make a good impression on Minister Malvani, who was visiting this time. This was the minister of the world government's administrative department. Your Majesty, why would this minister lord suddenly want to visit our nation? The official looked at the unobstructed sea surface, the great sea with flying snowflakes looked quite poetic, and asked in confusion. I don't know either. The notification didn't say. However, I guess it must be related to this year's reverie. Besides that, I really can't think of anything else important enough to warrant the great minister coming in person. King Arnold said this while patiently standing in place, waiting. Indeed, the world government's visiting ship was very punctual. 30 minutes later, escorted on both sides by 2 marine warships, it slowly sailed into the Drum Kingdom's port. Soon, a white-haired middle-aged man in a suit and tie, wearing a thick black leather overcoat, over 2 meters tall, and a marine officer estimated to be 3 meters tall, stepped off their respective ships. At the same time, numerous energetic and sturdy marine headquarters soldiers dispersed, instantly taking over the security work of the entire port. Ha ha ha, welcome, welcome. It is a great honor to host Minister Malvani's visit in our nation. I must treat you well this time. King Arnold laughed heartily and walked over with great enthusiasm. Minister Malvani shook his hand and smiled. I am also here under the order of the lords. Because the matter is somewhat complex and of high importance, I came in person. Oh? Can you reveal what the matter is? King Arnold's heart trembled slightly. Getting involved with the world government, and it being complex and important, didn't sound like a good thing no matter how he heard it. Hey, it's a good thing. Your Drum Kingdom is quite lucky this time. It's mainly because the reputation of your great medical nation is very well known overseas. After speaking, Minister Malvani introduced the tall Marine officer beside him. This is the newly promoted Marine Admiral candidate, Vice Admiral Quzn, also known as Aokiji. He also has a very important mission this time and isn't just here to escort me. I'm not qualified to enjoy such high-level protection. Hello, King Arnold. Please take care of me, Quzn said with a serious expression, lowering his head slightly as he greeted him. Admiral candidate? The one who is a top Logia system ISIS fruit ability user. King Arnold was stunned. This made him feel even more uneasy and worried. Having been an affiliated country king for so many years and attending the reverie for so long, he had some knowledge. With the strength of Vice Admiral Aokiji, his own guard squad wouldn't be his opponent even if they all went at once, right? Aralala, that would be me. Speaking of which, this nation is really nice, especially the climate and wind here, they are just comfortably perfect. I already like it here. Enjoying the cold wind and falling snow, Quzn looked at the continuous snow mountain range and the exaggerated 8 drum-like peaks on the high ground within the island. It was said that each of those 8 peaks was 5,000 meters high. However, thinking about the order he received this time, looking at these peaks made him feel somewhat weary and helpless. Hey, you will definitely like the climate of our Drum Kingdom. If you don't mind, you are welcome to stay for a few more days. King Arnold still maintained his enthusiasm, thinking to himself that at least with this lord present, he wouldn't have to worry about pirates during this time. For some reason, recently, there had been an increase in pirates attempting to land on the island and plunder, causing a sharp rise in casualties for the guard squad. Then I'll trouble you. I really do need to stay for some days this time. Quzn nodded. Hearing this, King Arnold had another head full of questions, but he didn't ask further. He quickly led the two onto the snow hippo carriage that had been prepared. About an hour later, the entire group passed through the town under the gaze of a large number of citizens and arrived at a snow mountain top. A magnificent large cable car was already parked here. Since the Royal Palace Castle is located at the top of the main peak, we need to take this cable car up. Please rest assured, the entire process is very safe and stable, and you can also enjoy the scenery of the snow country along the way. King Arnold introduced as he led Minister Malvani and Vice Admiral Quzn into the cable car. 5 minutes later, the cable car started, sliding up the straight cableway towards the high, snow-colored mountain peak. From the ground to the mountain top is a height of 5,000 meters. Although this cable car is decent, there should still be shortcomings in terms of load capacity and efficiency, right? Minister Malvani said softly, looking at the view outside the window. Yes, there are 2 aerial cableways connecting the ground and the main peak, so only 2 cable cars can be used at a time. Each cable car can carry a maximum of 20 people. This means that when a large amount of supplies needs to be transported, it takes too long. If a blizzard climate is encountered, it even has to be temporarily stopped. King Arnold sighed. Hey, this time, Vice Admiral Aokiji is here to help you solve this problem. Your Drum Kingdom is really going to have to thank the world government this time. After speaking, Minister Malvani looked at Quzn beside him and asked with a smile. How about it? Now that you've seen the environment in person, can you solve it? A height of 5,000 meters is a bit difficult. I can't do it in one go with my current strength. It will probably take about 10 days. Quzn only felt very weary. King Arnold was completely confused by their conversation. At this moment, Minister Malvani pointed to the other drum mountain peaks around the main peak. Your Majesty, how does your nation utilize these mountain peaks? Are there any buildings? No, those are empty. Our kingdom doesn't have that many citizens either. King Arnold shook his head. In fact, it was because the royalty throughout the generations didn't want the civilians to live at the same height as them, somewhat imitating the world nobles' marriage-wise. Is that so? That's good, that's great. Minister Malvani clapped his hands happily. Chapter 27, World Government Medical Development Cooperation Nation. Returning to the kingdom castle at the peak of the main peak, King Arnold sat firmly upon the throne made of iron, looking down at Minister Malvani and Vice Admiral Quzn standing below the stairway. From this moment on, the meeting between the affiliated countries and the world government officially began. The previous welcome and the politeness shown upon arrival were merely private etiquette and hospitality, fully demonstrating respect for the guests. But now, the aura befitting a king must be displayed. So, can you tell me now, what is the purpose of your visit to my Drum Kingdom? Along the way, the administrative department minister and admiral candidate before him had been speaking in riddles, their words vague and confusing, which had long piqued the king's curiosity. Your Majesty King Arnold, I have been ordered by the Political Affairs Department to discuss with you the matter of designating the Drum Kingdom as a World Government Medical Development Cooperation Nation. Saying this, Minister Malvani took out a scroll with a white background and gold threads from his bosom, and said, "This is the cooperation agreement. If you agree, you only need to sign it." At the same time, the official from before walked over, took the scroll, and presented it to the king on the platform. The king took the scroll, unrolled it, and began to read. As he read, a look of pleasant surprise leaped into his eyes. This really was a great thing. The scroll stated that the so-called World Government Medical Development Cooperation Nation meant that the world government would advocate, support, and encourage the Drum Kingdom's research and development in the medical field. Starting next year, as long as the Drum Kingdom's medical development passes the assessment by the Political Affairs Department, the amount of heavenly tribute paid each year would be significantly reduced, by up to 50%. Furthermore, the world government and the Drum Kingdom would jointly establish a medical academy, specifically responsible for the collection, organization, and in-depth research of world medicine, and it would be required to serve the world government free of charge. Of course, free of charge only meant that the medical academy could not charge fees when its services were needed. In reality, the medical academy's expenses would primarily be covered by the world government taking the larger share, with the Drum Kingdom responsible for the smaller share. Moreover, it was specified that Dr. Kira, who was already 117 years old this year, would serve as the first dean of the medical academy. This point made King Arnold's eyelids twitch. While Dr. Kira was indeed the foremost figure in the Drum Kingdom's medical field, both in terms of medical skill and seniority, her personality was too eccentric. Honestly, having her as the dean gave him a feeling of considerable unreliability. He continued reading. The world government hoped that the medical academy led by Dr. Kira could establish a rigorous physician promotion system to standardize doctors worldwide. In the future, doctors wishing to improve their physician rank would need to come to the Drum Kingdom for assessment. This point made King Arnold's eyes light up. He wasn't stupid. This was essentially making the Drum Kingdom the center of world medicine. Quick! Send someone to invite Dr. Kira over immediately. Tell her the world government is looking for her, and it's a matter of great importance. The king quickly gave the order to the official below. Yes, Your Majesty. The official quickly exited the castle hall. Just then, Minister Malvani from the administrative department spoke again. You must have seen the matter of establishing the medical academy. Didn't I ask you about the other Drum Mountain peaks earlier? I hope to build the medical academy on one of those mountain peaks. What do you think? This. King Arnold felt a bit conflicted. To be honest, he didn't really want to do this. Otherwise, wouldn't the civilians be able to casually reach the same height as their royalty in the future? But the minister had already said so, and he truly had no suitable reason to object. Furthermore, he very much hoped that the medical academy could be built. Finally, he gritted his teeth and nodded. All right, no problem. In a few days, I'll have people set up aerial cableways and cable cars on the mountain peak to the left. Hey, regarding this matter, our world government already has a plan. Minister Malvani was very happy that everything was going smoothly and was in a very pleasant mood. Vice Admiral Aokiji will find a way to solve the transportation difficulties. Oh? King Arnold looked curiously at this overly tall admiral candidate. Kyuzen stroked his chin and said thoughtfully. When I came in just now, I glanced at the surrounding Drum Mountain peaks and found that the distance between them isn't very far. It should be possible to connect them all using ice bridges, allowing free passage between the peaks. What, connecting all 8 Drum Mountain peaks? King Arnold was so startled he immediately stood up, showing extreme surprise. If this were done, the 7 Drum Mountain peaks that had been idle could all be used, which was equivalent to increasing the kingdom's area. Yes, I actually strongly suggest that your nation relocate the citizens below to the peaks, because the town is located too low, right below the snow mountain range. It would be too dangerous if an avalanche occurred. Kyuzen sincerely suggested. The Drum Kingdom's citizen population wasn't large. Even if 1 Drum Mountain peak was used for the medical academy, the remaining 6 could fully accommodate all the citizens. This. King Arnold was conflicted again. It was one thing to let the doctors be on equal footing with him, but why bring up even the lowest civilians? As for avalanches and such, he genuinely didn't care. Avalanches did occasionally occur in the country, but hadn't the citizens below been living perfectly fine all these years? But just like before, Kyuzen's words made a lot of sense, and he had no suitable reason to refuse. Coupled with the other party's identity, a future marine admiral. If they were attacked by an overly strong pirate one day, they would still need to rely on the other party to come and help deal with them. Vice Admiral Aokiji, even if we are to relocate the citizens, it's not an easy matter. With just the transportation efficiency of cable cars, this would take several years to complete, wouldn't it? King Arnold attempted to struggle. Yes, While cable cars cannot be abandoned, they cannot be the primary mode of transportation in the future. Therefore, for most of the time to come, I will create a stairway connecting the ground and the main peak. Because the height is a full 5,000 meters, a relatively spacious platform is needed every 1,000 meters for people to rest. No matter how you look at it, this is a huge project. Q's sighed helplessly. Ever since he created the thick and useful ice field battlefield for Admiral Sengoku and Vice Admiral Garp, it seemed he had been targeted by the world government. Now he had become a construction team, well, a construction team of one person. But he also knew that this matter was a great thing for the citizens of the Drum Kingdom, truly worthy of being called a mission of justice, fitting the word justice he carried. Therefore, he didn't feel any resentment in his heart. Instead, he was somewhat happy and looking forward to it. At the same time, his impression of the world government had also improved significantly. It would just be tiring for a few days, as his ice fruit had not yet undergone awakening. Chapter 28, Kira's Research Project and the New Stargate. Dr. Kira arrived. Stepping out of the cable car was a slender, white-haired woman dressed in a purple-blue denim pants and coat, with only a thin white t-shirt underneath. A light yellow pair of sunglasses perched on her forehead. Overall, she didn't look like a 117-year-old elder at all. Instead, she resembled a middle-aged delinquent, exuding a strong sense of rebelliousness. Phew. It's been years since I've been here. Kira looked up at the majestic snow-white castle before her, a wild, unrestrained smile on her face. This way, His Majesty the King, Minister Malvani from the World Government, and Vice Admiral Aokiji from Marine Headquarters are waiting for you inside. The official from before respectfully raised his palm, pointing towards the castle gate. Let's go. On the way, Kira had already heard a general overview from the official about the Medical Development Cooperation Nation and the establishment of the Drum Medical Academy. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been interested in coming, not even for a king's invitation. As she stepped into the reception hall, a wave of heat washed over her. Although the Drum Kingdom's climate was cold, the royalty certainly didn't mistreat themselves. Dr. Kira has arrived. King Arnold on the throne felt a sense of relief. To be honest, he wasn't sure if she would actually come. This medical doctor, over 100 years old, was a special figure in this nation. Kira walked to about 5 meters in front of Minister Malvani. All right, I'm here. You must be the minister of the administrative department, right? Tell me about this medical academy. If this medical doctor isn't satisfied, I'm turning right around to buy some alcohol. She was completely blunt, but Minister Malvani didn't mind. Having held a high position in the world government for so many years, his ability to maintain composure was well honed. Furthermore, he didn't particularly want to stay in this cold kingdom for long, so this straightforward, efficient way of doing things actually suited his taste. It's like this. Minister Malvani showed no impatience and repeated the matter he had discussed with King Arnold before, even in more detail. After listening, Kira fell silent. To be honest, she was tempted. In her entire life, she had only been obsessed with 2 things, drinking alcohol and medicine. The latter, especially, had consumed her entire life. Whether it was ancient diseases or modern novel diseases, she could confidently say she knew a thing or two, and her exquisite surgery technique was unparalleled in the entire drum medical field. She also had a habit of collecting various obscure medicine, all hidden in a secret base. Minister Malvani had just said that the Medical Academy would be the highest-level medical research institute under the world government, a place responsible for organizing, researching all known and unknown medicine, diseases, and medical skill in the world. If it could truly be like that, wouldn't it be a paradise for her? As for establishing a rank promotion system for world doctors, and being responsible for compiling textbooks and conducting assessments, those troublesome matters didn't interest her much. Fortunately, she wouldn't be the only one at the Medical Academy. The first step was to recruit the excellent doctors within the Drum Kingdom. Doctors with extremely high medical skill would directly enter the Medical Academy, while those of a slightly lower caliber would join the World Hospital. The Medical Academy and the World Hospital were the core of the World Government Medical Development Cooperation Nation project. Any hospital within an affiliated country that encountered a difficult illness they couldn't solve could apply for a hospital transfer. Similarly, doctors from other affiliated countries who wished to join the Medical Academy or World Hospital could also apply. Both the Medical Academy and the World Hospital were decided to be built on a drum mountain peak, located to the left of the main peak where the Royal Palace Castle was situated. How about it? Are you willing to accept the position of Dean of the Medical Academy? Hearing Minister Malvani's solemn question, Kira didn't play coy and readily agreed. Sounds good, I'll try it for a few years. Excellent. Once Vice Admiral Aokiji finishes building the ice bridge and steps, our administrative department will bring over the building materials and construction workers. With that, Minister Malvani beckoned behind him. A prepared administrative department attendant quickly walked over, holding a file bag in both hands. Although the medical academy hasn't started construction yet, the World Government Medical Development Cooperation Nation project has been in effect since King Arnold signed the agreement. This means you are already the official dean of the medical academy. This is the first research project the world government has assigned to the medical academy. He took a report out of the file bag and handed it to Kira. The latter took it and was surprised to find that it was a disease report. It detailed the case files of 3 patients and a professional evaluation of the disease, along with high-definition images of the patient's body surface and internal condition. Amber Lead. Kira murmured to herself. This disease was truly something she had never seen before, immediately piquing her curiosity. She immediately immersed herself in the contents of the report, completely ignoring her surroundings and the people around her. Seeing this, Minister Malviny and Kuzn exchanged knowing glances, a smile in their eyes. Oh, and King Arnold, besides this matter, I also hope to bring back the 20 most excellent doctors from the Drum Kingdom with me to Holy Land Mary Joyce for treatment work. Mary Joyce? Are the descendants of the Creator sick? King Arnold adopted a posture of great concern. No, it's to treat a group of mermaids and fishmen. The lords above hope they can recover from their injuries and diseases as quickly as possible. Minister Malviny said. Ah, I see. Yes, of course, that's no problem. I'll send someone to notify them right away. I believe many doctors will be interested in mermaids and fishmen. Please stay for a night today, and allow me to properly host you and Vice Admiral Aokiji. Holy Land, Mary Joyce, the room of authority on the top floor of Pangaea Castle. As the saying goes, when the leader speaks, the subordinates run themselves ragged. After Im discussed it with the 5 elders and issued the order, the world government, marine headquarters, and Cypher Pal began bustling across the Great Sea. And what about Im and the 5 elders? The latter were still in the Hall of Authority, drinking tea and reading the newspaper, while the former was currently lying on a luxurious gold and red bed, staring blankly. It looked like staring blankly, but in reality, he was staring at the latest prompt in his line of sight. This prompt had appeared a few days ago, on January 1st, the day of Roger's public execution. The content of the prompt was very brief, just one sentence: a new stargate is waiting to be opened. The instructions stated that a small stargate, 3 meters high and 2 meters wide, would appear every year. So now he had 2 small stargates, 2 teleportation gates leading to unknown planets. Hesitation. His main planet had just started being sorted out and was completely in its initial stages. Where would he find the energy to interfere with a planet he knew nothing about? What if there was a particularly terrifying entity there? His own strength, while undoubtedly the strongest in this pirate world, the universe was vast. Since the star chart's description mentioned unknown civilizations, it definitely meant there were experts among them, perhaps even stronger than himself. Caution. It was better to be cautious. At least wait until this year's reverie had progressed to a certain stage. Then, he could send a few Cypher Pal agents over to investigate. In any case, there was no way Im would be the first one to go in. Matters like adventure should be left to the people below. Chapter 29, The Encounter of Shadow and Glint. In the New World Sea area of the Grand Line's second half, the third island on Route Number 2 is a winter island called White Asia 3 Islands. This is because it has 3 main islands arranged in a pin shape, along with some tiny islands that can only accommodate less than 100 people. This is also the third island on Route Number 1, so pirates from both routes often encounter and battle each other here. The victors continue forward, while the defeated sea ships sink into the Great Sea. Therefore, the most common sights in this place are the wreckage of sea ships and corpses stuck with wooden stakes and air-dried on the beach. At this time, the island on the east side among the 3 large islands is occupied by 20 strange individuals, each with 2 horns on their heads, mouths full of fangs, and body sizes exceeding 6 meters. They walked through the blood-soaked ground with surging killing intent, moving among the corpses scattered everywhere. Occasionally hearing a dying sound, they would walk over without a word, stomp their chest flat with a foot, and give the person a quick end. Moria. Die a terrible death. You will absolutely not have a good end. It won't be long, cough cough cough, it won't be long before you bastards also report to the underworld. Temple's hands were tied behind his back, and he knelt on the blood-stained snow. Enduring the pain of his battered body, his eyes, red and wet with tears, glared furiously at the person in front of him and cursed loudly. Just moments ago, the companions he had spent several years with were killed one by these foreign bastards from the Moonlight Pirates. Hey, the lean and tall Moria sat on the thickest corpse, a long saber over 3 meters long stuck upright on the ground to his right. Seeing the other party's hysterical appearance, he grinned with his fangs, laughing brightly. Ugly, too ugly. Captain Temple of the War Elephant Pirates, You're a famous pirate with a bounty of 67 million Bailey, can't you maintain some demeanor? But Captain Temple was already in despair at this moment. Knowing he was certain to die, he completely ignored what Moria said, only wanting to seize the time to curse him more. How boring. I thought you were someone important. Moria stood up with a disappointed expression, casually grabbed the hilt, and pulled the long saber from the ground. He looked up at the bright sun and laughed. However, I admire the bond you have with these companions. Pirate crews like yours are rare, so I've decided to give you a magnificent death, definitely more beautiful than Pirate King Roger's death. Wow, Captain is going to perform light burial again. Haha, this is going to be interesting. No matter how many times I see it, it's always exciting. The crewmates of the Moonlight Pirates gathered about 10 meters in front of Captain Temple, their eyes wide with excitement, waiting for something to happen. You. What are you going to do? Captain Temple was shocked and enraged to see these guys staring at him as if watching a clown. At the same time, a large black shadow enveloped him from behind. This made his heart turn cold, and he understood that his time of death had arrived. Is he going to chop off my head from behind? Just then, the long saber in Moria's hand swung down. The urgent sound of cutting through air made Captain Temple close his eyes resignedly, thinking inwardly. This is fine too. My companions just died not long ago, I should be able to catch up with them on the way to the underworld. But in the darkness, a second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds passed, yet he felt no pain at all. After about 10 seconds, he opened his eyes in doubt. I'm still alive? Hey, experience the heat of the sunlight, War Elephant Captain Temple. Gecko Moria, who was standing behind him, took a step to the right. Immediately, Captain Temple, who was kneeling on the ground, noticed that the large black shadow in front of him was gone. Swish, before he could react, suddenly, an intense burning sensation like fire erupted on his back, then spread throughout his entire body. The slightly cold sunlight falling from the sky had, at this moment, turned into the cruelest punishment. A piercing scream suddenly appeared. Gecko Moria held the black shadow he had just cut off in his left hand, watching excitedly as Captain Temple gradually turned into ash under the sunlight. Here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. Haha, this show is too good to watch. His fellow tribesmen and companions waved their hands and feet excitedly, occasionally jumping up. When Captain Temple's appearance completely vanished, the shadow in Moria's hand also disappeared. He wasn't surprised by this at all. Even if the shadow and the physical body are cut apart, they still have a certain connection. If the physical body changes, the shadow will also undergo corresponding changes. Therefore, since the physical body turned into ash, the shadow naturally ceased to exist. We should have tried to catch them alive just now. Let the whole crew enjoy the light burial together, that scene would definitely be better to watch. A crewmate of the Moonlight Pirates grinned widely and laughed. The dead ones are fine too, but Captain doesn't like cutting the shadows of dead people. What's the point of watching dead people turn into ash? The screams before death are the most appealing part. Just as the group of tall guys were talking over each other, Gecko Moria laughed and cursed. You bastards, hurry up and search their ship. Move everything usable and edible onto our ship. And throw all these corpses into the sea. Consider it a full meal for the fish in the sea. Yes, Captain. Let's go, hurry up and see what's on board. It would be great if there was alcohol. We don't need meat, there's a pile of Sea King's meat on the ship, enough to eat. Gecko Moria watched them run towards the War Elephant Pirates ship joyfully, and in a happy mood, he turned and walked towards his own pirate ship. Today's sunlight was too bright for him, not very comfortable. He still preferred a dark environment, but occasionally watching a magnificent light burial was also a good show. Yo, I finally found you, Gecko Moria, with a bounty of 120 million Bailey. Suddenly, a voice with a drawn-out, extremely lazy and leisurely tone rang out from behind him. Moria quickly turned around, raised his long saber in defense, and at the same time, saw with his own eyes a golden glint not far away turn into a figure roughly half his own height. This person wore a black gentleman's hat on his head, a bright yellow suit underneath, and most importantly, the pure white coat of justice on his body gently fluttered in the wind and snow. Marines? Gecko Moria's face turned ugly and he said. Looking at the ability you just used, it's a Logia system, right? Are you the newly promoted Admiral candidate, Kizaru? Amazing, you guessed it right away. Borsalino put on a surprised expression, then casually asked. Since that's the case, how about you obediently come with me so my mission can end quickly, and you'll suffer less pain? Hey, although I don't know why you Marines are targeting me, since you've appeared before me, then witness the strength of a top-tier Logia system. Gecko Moria sneered, grinning with a mouth full of sharp fangs. At the same time, His eyes were full of malice as he stared at Borsalino, and the long saber in his hand was even more eager to try. How troublesome, I knew it wouldn't end that simply. Borsalino annoyedly took off the gentleman's hat from his head and put it into the pocket of his coat. The next moment, he instantly appeared before Gecko Moria, and at the same time, a golden flash shone towards the latter's face and pupil. The intense radiance forced him to subconsciously close his eyes, but a light, floating greeting rang out by his ear. Have you been light-kicked? Chapter 30, Shadow and Glint Showdown. Whoosh, as a long leg flashing with golden light flashed past, Gecko Moria's head unexpectedly shattered, turning into pieces of torn black shadow fragments fluttering in midair. Borsalino looked doubtfully at Moria's body that had turned into a massive purplish black shadow before him. Swish, suddenly, this black shadow fiercely swung the sharp shadow blade in its hand, turning into a black flash that horizontally slashed at the former's waist, splitting Borsalino in two. However, there were no wounds or blood at the cut, instead, there was bright golden light. Immediately after, the golden light flashed, appearing in the place where he originally stood in the blink of an eye. How scary! Borsalino wore a look of lingering fear, his gaze passing over that black shadow to look at Gecko Moria, who had appeared 50 meters away without him noticing, his face full of doubt. You're a Logia system too? But didn't the file say you were a Palamcia system shadow fruit user? Hey, I'd like to know why your element transformation can be immune to my slashes, even though the attack just now was wrapping hockey. Gecko Moria had no interest in introducing his ability to him, instead, he questioned back. It was his first time facing a Logia system ability user, so he wasn't entirely sure if hockey could harm element transformation. Well, who knows? Borsalino's answer was completely insincere. Humphrey, we'll know if we fight. I really don't believe hockey is useless against you. Gecko Moria let out a cold snort and then shouted. Shadow doppelganger, come with me. Bang, stomping hard on the ground with a foot, his body size of nearly 7 meters instantly accelerated, easily smashing through a massive air current generated by a sonic boom, turning into a huge purplish black afterimage and charging forward. At the same time, the black shadow, whose form was exactly the same as his, holding the shadow blade, approached Borsalino one step ahead to slash. Mano Moracamo. Borsalino's movements were faster, casually drawing out a golden longsword completely formed by gathered light particles, instantly blocking the shadow blade's attack. Next, in less than 2 seconds, the shadow blade and the light sword continuously clashed at a speed that appeared extremely blurry to the naked eye of an ordinary person. Black flashes and golden light clanged together in a chaotic fight, continuously generating circle after circle of ripple-like airwaves in midair. Occasional slashes that swept past cut out hideous long cracks on the ground. The next second, Gecko Moria's main body approached. He tried to get behind Borsalino, but the latter flashed back a few meters, giving no opportunity for a pincer attack at all. Having no choice, Moria could only launch a quick attack with the shadow doppelganger from the left and right, each blade swinging out dangerous purplish black slashes. Borsalino blocked with his sword while observing the situation of the two. He found that this so-called shadow doppelganger, whether it was strength, speed, or reaction, was basically identical to Moria's main body. Only in terms of hockey was there a difference in strength. The former's shadow blade was only wrapped with a weak layer of armament hockey, while the hockey presence on the latter's long saber was extremely dense, even hardening the blade. However, comparing swordsmanship alone, he was clearly stronger, although Moria was also quite good with his blade. Also, speed. Swish, Borsalino turned into a glint again, disappearing from his original spot in the blink of an eye, and then appearing to the left of Moria's main body and slashing with a sword. Fortunately, the latter's observation hockey level was decent, and he reacted immediately, but it was too late to block with his blade. As for using armament hockey to hardening his body to test the sharpness of Mano Moracamo, it was even unthinkable, as that light sword was clearly also wrapped with a layer of hockey. Shadow swap. At this critical moment, Moria once again used the shadow fruit's ability to swap positions with his own shadow, which was the shadow doppelganger. Borsalino's eyebrow twitched when he saw this scene, but Moria showed no hesitation, immediately activating his killing move. Scattered bats. With a boom, the shadow doppelganger in front of the former was seen suddenly exploding, turning into dense shadow bats that flopped forward. They scattered, surrounding Borsalino from multiple directions like a black net. Although this move was sudden, the latter also had observation hockey. Coupled with the glint fruit's unsolvable speed, he instantly dodged the bites of all the bats, and when he reappeared, he was already in high altitude. Oh, what a troublesome ability! Borsalino rubbed his chin and looked down with a troubled expression. At the same time, Gecko Moria on the ground also frowned tightly, staring at the sky above, and cursed in a low voice. This guy's speed is too fast. How am I supposed to fight this? In his opinion, The swordsmanship of both sides was evenly matched, neither could hope to gain an advantage from it. So the fight came down to hockey and devil fruit ability. In terms of armament hockey and observation hockey, he seemed to be slightly at a disadvantage. And in terms of ability, it seemed neither could do anything to the other. The combination of Shadow Doppelganger and Shadow Swap was equivalent to element transformation plus spatial displacement, but while this was sufficient for self-preservation, it was too difficult to injure Borsellino. It looks like this fight will take a long time, Gecko Moria thought to himself. Suddenly, he remembered his fellow clan members. The fight here had reached this point, how had he not noticed yet? Beep, but Borsellino gave him no chance at all to check on his fellow clan members. The Amano Morakamo in his hand had already disappeared, and a dazzling golden glint lit up at his fingertips. Whoosh! 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 3 light beams shot out, their speed so fast they instantly approached Gecko Moria. But the latter casually took a few steps relying on observation hockey, easily dodging the laser rays. Hey, what's the use of this? Moria sneered. Although Borsellino's observation hockey seemed a bit more proficient than his, the gap wasn't so large that he could predict his predictions. But the next second, when the light beams landed on the snow behind him, 3 bright red explosion fireballs expanded. High-temperature flames and shockwaves instantly swallowed large areas of snow and Gecko Moria. Beep, Borsellino in high altitude was very calm about this scene. The light beams on his fingers continued to fire, and another 3 shots went down. Can't you swap positions with your shadow clone? Alright, then I'll just blow up both of you together. Try dodging that. Swish, suddenly, an anomaly occurred. Amidst the continuous explosion gunfire flash, a huge purplish-black slash appeared, unexpectedly temporarily cutting through the flames and air current. Immediately after, the Shadow Doppelganger shot up into the sky, and as soon as it flew in front of Borsellino, the black on its body quickly faded, turning into Moria himself, looking a bit disheveled. Die. The 3-meter-long great blade slashed out fiercely. The sharp blade was wrapped in a thick purplish-black shadow blade and dense armament hockey, splitting Borsellino in half from top to bottom. However, the situation was the same as before, no blood appeared. Instead, he turned into 2 golden lights that shot out to the left and right, and then merged into one in midair in the distance. That irritatingly lewd face reappeared. Oh, your shadow clone can even fly. What a truly terrifying ability, Borsellino pouted, looking very surprised, but then saw Moria falling down and grinned, saying, I see, you can't fly after swapping positions. However, the latter's damaged clothing and furious expression clearly showed that the explosions from the previous 6 light beams had some effect. Since that's the case, let's increase the intensity. When Gecko Moria had just landed back on the ground filled with scorched earth dents, it was as if an extra sun had appeared in the sky. Dazzling golden light covered the entire blue sky. Yaskani no Magatama Chapter 31, Moria's Unwillingness and Helplessness. A battleship painted with the world government symbol. It quietly lay anchored on the sea between the White Asia 3 islands. Silently observing East Island, which was shrouded in wind and snow. Golden radiance, red fireballs, and purple-black slashes occasionally flashed across the island. The deafening roars were extremely dense. It's been 5 days, hasn't it? On the deck, a white-clothed person wearing a white mask on his face asked in a deep voice. Behind him stood over a dozen Cypher Pol 6 agent members, all in black suits and exuding an elite aura. Hearing his question, one of them quickly replied. Report, Lord, yes, it is the 5th day. It seems the outcome will be decided soon. How are those ogre tribe people locked in the cells in the hold? None of them died, right? The white-clothed person continued to ask without turning his head. The ship doctors have finished treating them. Coupled with their inherent vitality being stronger than ordinary people, they are all alive and well. They have now been injected with anesthetic and are still in a state of unconsciousness. The white-clothed person nodded with satisfaction and said, Good, keep a close eye on them. Yes. Merciless time continued to drift forward with the cold wind, and 4 more hours passed silently. Suddenly, East Island of White Asia seemed to quiet down. Whether it was glint or explosions, everything settled into dust. The sky-filling snow stopped at some point. Only the brilliant sunlight remained, covering everything around and illuminating the large and small bomb craters and slash marks on the island, making them appear even more prominent and grisly. Just then, the Cypher Pol personnel on the battleship keenly heard a muffled thud. Immediately after, a black shadow flew out rapidly from inside East Island. The black shadow fell heavily to the ground, rolling a dozen times. Finally, it lay motionless on the relatively intact beach. Immediately after, a golden glint condensed beside the black shadow. It was Borsellino. However, his appearance at this moment was truly wretched. Not only was he covered in sweat, But his breathing was also slightly rapid and heavy, and his bright yellow suit was tattered. Only his coat of justice remained relatively neat, though a large section of the left sleeve had been slashed off. Phew. What a troublesome fellow, that really tired me out. Borsellino looked down at Gecko Moria, who had rolled his eyes and fainted, and shook his head tiredly. The 5 days of combat experience were definitely the most difficult and time-consuming he had faced since joining the Marines. This Moria's strength was truly impressive. If he hadn't possessed the glint fruit ability, that guy might really have escaped. Putting everything else aside, if Gecko Moria had first sent his shadow doppelganger flying out alone, and then used shadow swap to switch positions once it was very far away, his chance of escaping would have been quite high. For some unknown reason, however, this guy showed no intention of escaping alone at all, completely wasting the caution he had maintained until now. 10 minutes later, the world government battleship came alongside, and hundreds of Cypher Pol 6 agents man in black ran down from it. They first put sea-stone handcuffs and leg cuffs on Gecko Moria. Then, 6 people together carried him onto the battleship and finally locked him into a single prison cell in the hold. In the cells next door to him, 2 Ogre Tribe crewmates of the Moonlight Pirates lay in each. Don't let the fact that there were only 20 of them fool you. Their tall stature, averaging 6 meters in height, took up considerable space. Therefore, out of a total of 12 prison cells, only 1 remained empty at this time. Thank you for your hard work, Vice Admiral Kizaru. On the battleship deck, the white-clothed person from Cypher Pol 0 agent said in a deep voice to Borsellino, who had appeared instantly. Next time there's a matter like this, don't come looking for me. Also, I put in so much effort this time, go back and talk to them about the bonus matter. Borsellino complained with a pout. At the same time, he turned and walked towards the hold, preparing to return to his room to lie down for a while. I will, but I can't guarantee anything. Great Undersea Prison. Impel Downs Underground Level 4, Blazing Hell. 5 days had passed since the Light Shadow battle. This place was the core of the entire Great Prison. The warden's office and the granary that supplied everyone inside the prison were both located here. The reason it was called Blazing Hell was because it was a sea of fire everywhere, and the ground was as hot as a frying pan. In the central zone, there was also a super large iron pot with a diameter of 50 meters, filled with boiling crimson blood. Therefore, the air throughout Underground Level 4 was filled with a strong smell of blood. 2 days ago, Gecko Moria woke up from unconsciousness and immediately experienced what it meant to be intensely hot and unbearable. As for the smell of blood, it was, on the contrary, very sweet to him. However, his mood was quite bad. He really hadn't expected that just last year, he had set sail high-spiritedly from his hometown in West Blue with his clan companions. And just a few days after entering the New World, he was caught and brought here. He had originally wanted to become the second Pirate King. Finally awake? I've been waiting for you here for a long time. At this moment, a strange, cold voice came from outside the prison cell. This made Moria, whose hands and feet were all locked by sea-stone chains, suddenly raise his head and glare angrily at the white-clothed person who walked in. Who are you? I report directly to the world noble. Celestial dragons. Gecko Moria felt very surprised and asked. Are the celestial dragons targeting me? Why? You could say that. As for the reason, of course, it's because they value you as a person, as well as your devil fruit ability. The white-clothed person answered very patiently, then continued to say. Those crewmates of your clan are all still alive. What? Moria was greatly surprised and delighted, and hurriedly asked. Where are they? Right above you, in Underground Level 3, Starvation Hell. Other than being hungry, there are no major problems. The injuries on their bodies have also been treated by us. The white-clothed person replied. Hearing this, Moria breathed a sigh of relief, but immediately frowned. You came here to see me, and said the celestial dragons value my ability. Then what is your purpose? The white-clothed person liked that Moria got straight to the point. After all, the environment of this Impel Down was indeed terrible, and he didn't want to stay for even a day longer. The Lord above hope you can join the world government and become a jailer in this Impel Down. However, you also have the qualification for normal promotion. If you have the capability to become warden, it's not impossible. What? Gecko Moria's eyeballs were almost popping out. He looked in shock at the mask on the white-clothed person's face, and his voice immediately grew louder. You captured me just so I could work here? You could say that. The Lord above think your devil fruit ability is very suitable for working in Impel Down, so they had me and Vice Admiral Kizaru invite you here. The white-clothed person nodded. You. Gecko Moria was enraged by the other party's word invite. He only felt a surge of ill will welling up from his gut and immediately stood up in a posture as if about to riot. His height was nearly 7 meters, and standing up like this, He looked very terrifying. But the white-clothed person remained unmoved. With both hands in the pockets of his clean white trousers, his attitude remained cold. He didn't put Moria's aura in his eyes at all. I counted, there are 20 people among those clan crewmates of yours. According to the promise the Lord made to you, as long as you work honestly here, then every year one person can be released to be a jailer here with you. At the same time, every time you get promoted a level, you can release one more person additionally. That is to say, if you can become warden, at most 15 years, you can regain freedom and leave here together with those companions of yours. As soon as these words were spoken, Gecko Moria was stunned. Following this, he remained silent for nearly 20 minutes. During this period, his face constantly flickered with struggle, conflict, unwillingness, and resentment. Finally, all turned into a long sigh. Phew, first, take me to see them. What else could he do? Chapter 32, The Troubled Five Elders. When the night was deep and quiet, that enormous full moon appeared again. Lord Amu, the doctors from Drum Kingdom are currently treating the Merfolk tribe and Fishman tribe. According to their estimation, it will likely take 15 days to recover. In the empty hall, the five elders knelt below the dais, and the one in the middle respectfully gave the report. As for their psychological state, although Marine Vice Admiral Tsuru was somewhat reluctant at first, she ultimately took action to cleanse their hearts of negative emotions. Im heard this and was very satisfied. This was because Tsuru couldn't bear to see the mermaids constantly living in despair, numbness, and hatred, and also for their own safety. After all, if they continued to hold extreme attitudes towards the world government, they would face elimination. She had no doubt about the world government's ruthlessness in this regard. But for Im, no matter her psychological changes, as long as the result was sufficient, that was enough. Gecko Moria has also agreed to become a jailer at Impel Down, responsible for cutting off the prisoners' shadows and managing the severed shadows. According to Warden Columbus's feedback, although his attitude towards his colleagues is quite cold, he is considered responsible in his work. However, he often sends food and fresh water to his fellow tribesmen in starvation hell without authorization. This point gives him a headache. Let him handle this himself. As long as it's not too excessive, let Moria do as he pleases. We only need him to be obedient and work diligently. Im's tone was still cold. Impel Down holds nearly 600,000 prisoners, and Gecko Moria faces a considerable workload, especially since a large batch will flood in later. According to the intelligence feedback from Cypherpol in various sea areas, the rumors about the Great Pirate Treasure are intensifying, and the Marines are also gradually discovering that there are more pirates at sea. What about the matter of Thriller Bark? This time, Saint Shepherd Jupiter answered respectfully. With the help of the 3 Southbirds found in the forest on Jaya Island, Cypherpol 5 agent has already found it in the Misty Sea and is currently figuring out how to control it. Hurry and modify it. The undercurrents of the Great Pirate Era are surging in various places. We need to use it to suppress this tsunami sweeping across the world. Im looked down coldly and gave the order. Yes, Lord Amu. The 5 elders responded in unison. Also, summon that Don Quixote kid to see me. I have a use for him. Im said again. However, these words greatly surprised the 5 elders. They looked at each other with obvious doubt and confusion in their eyes, but still agreed immediately. We shall obey your imperial will. Immediately after, Saint Topman Warcurry, still kneeling in the middle, asked. Should that other person be summoned? I remember he's almost 20 years old. Im frowned, but quickly realized who the other party was talking about. After thinking for a moment, he said. Not for now. Wait until he turns 20 next year. He couldn't immediately think of an arrangement for that kid. It's better to let him continue to be free and hone his own strength. Yes, Lord Amu. Just as the 5 elders thought this audience had ended and were preparing to respectfully take their leave, another order came from the throne high above. In a few days, I want to go out. Prepare a flying vehicle for me. It must be spacious. What? The 5 elders were greatly shocked. They all raised their heads in unison and looked at him in shock. Their thoughts were almost identical. Lord Amu is actually going out? This person has been living in seclusion in the room of authority for hundreds of years. Has the long period of quietude finally made him restless? What's wrong? I want to go out, is that not allowed? Im saw the surprised gaze of these people. He questioned back with displeasure, instantly turning the 5 elders' surprise into fright. No, 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 this is your freedom. We naturally have no opinion. It's just that your safety is paramount. Could you inform us of your destination and the time you will be away? Saint Ethanburn Venusjiro, holding Shodai Kaitetsu, asked softly. There are quite a few places I want to go. The time I'll be away is not yet certain. I'll depart after this reverie ends, so hurry and prepare. If anything happens then, contact me using a transponder snail. Im thought for a moment and still gave a simple answer. This was because for over a year, he has been staying in the room of authority, at most, only moving within Pangaea Castle. It really made him feel very stifled and depressed. The previous Im could stay shut in for over 800 years, but he couldn't stand it. The outside world is so beautiful and wonderful, he has long wanted to go out and see it, and there are indeed some matters that he needs to handle himself. It's just that the vehicle needs some preparation. Sitting on a ship is too slow, and it can't fly. If he were to use moonwalk himself, although he can fly and the speed is fast enough, it would look too shabby, wouldn't it? He, the dignified Lord Im, the actual ruler of the entire planet, still needs to maintain a certain display. Furthermore, when going out, he will definitely encounter many trivial matters. He can't possibly handle all these matters himself, right? Understood, Lord Im. It's just, what identity do you plan to use when going out? And your appearance? St. Marcus Mars, with his long straight hair, asked worriedly. Prepare a new, unremarkable celestial dragon identity for me, and an invisible false pupil that can conceal my pupil but won't affect my vision. As for my appearance, I haven't shown my face for several hundred years, no one will recognize me. Im had already thought of these things and slowly stated his thoughts. The 5 elders heard that this lord was determined to go out and said nothing more. From now on, they only needed to cooperate well. Regarding Impel Down, I want to transfer someone out. Send someone to notify them. Finally, Im suddenly thought of something and added a sentence. After the 6-person meeting ended, the 5 elders returned to the room of authority. As soon as they sat on the sofa, they started their own small meeting. Any thoughts on the vehicle Lord Im mentioned? St. Topman Warkery, sitting in the main seat in the middle, was the first to speak. It is indeed a bit difficult. A large space is easy to arrange, the main thing is the Lord requires it to fly. St. Jaga Ursha Saturn, wearing a flat hat and with a bushy mustache, said worriedly. St. Marcus Mars, with his long straight hair, thought for a moment and suggested. How about we ask Dr. Vegapunk if the science unit can build a flying ship? Even if they could build it, but with less than 3 months until the reverie, will there be enough time? St. Ethanburn Venusjiro, holding Shodai Kaitetsu, asked back. This. Then let's try a devil fruit with the ability to fly. St. Shepherd Jupiter thought for a moment and suddenly said. Isn't Shiki still imprisoned in infinite hell? Finding a way to make him obedient will solve the problem. Lord Im said before that he has other uses for him. Besides drawing blood to provide research material for the science unit, he is not to be easily disturbed. St. Topman Warkery responded with a shake head. Then what other way is there? St. Shepherd Jupiter became troubled. At this time, St. Jaga Ursha Saturn, who was wearing a flat hat, said. Devil fruit is a good method. Although Shiki cannot be used, we can look for others. There are so many devil fruits in the treasury, they're almost piled up like small mountains. Have the people below searched thoroughly? There must be one that can be used. A few days ago, they followed Im's order and took all the devil fruits from the other celestial dragons to prevent those idiots from foolishly wasting them, and at the same time, had them classified and recorded according to the encyclopedia. Therefore, the number of devil fruits currently in the 5 elders' hands is so large that using small mountains to describe it is not an exaggeration at all. As for the issue of the celestial dragons causing trouble, ever since one was eliminated before, all the celestial dragons have become obedient. Whether it was mermaids or devil fruits, they all obediently handed them over. Okay, then let's do this. Let's search first. This is one of the foundations accumulated by the world government over several hundred years. Bowing his head, he respectfully reported. Reporting to Redder Lord, this book currently has 209 collections, 321 recommendations, 51 monthly passes, and is ranked 46th in the contracted author new book ranking light novel category. However, relying solely on these to face opponents in the myriad worlds is still far from enough. Please give your instructions. Chapter 33, Doflamingo receives an invitation. North Blue, Spider Miles Island. The air here is still filled with thick industrial smoke, and occasionally, the sound of machinery operating in the factory buildings can be heard. Every month, hundreds of thousands of various firearms are manufactured here, then loaded onto cargo ships and sold to various places in the North Blue, and even other sea areas. Therefore, this island has 3 large docks, and ship traffic is extremely frequent, day and night, while anchored ships are few. On this day, Doflamingo and Pika disembarked from their sea ship. Looking at the bustling scene of loading and unloading, he felt much more pleased. Fufufufufu, business is as good as ever because he knew that these boxes of weapons would cause chaos, war, and death, large and small, in various countries, sowing chaos and trouble throughout this world, which was exactly what he was happy to see. He would personally destroy this great sea, ruled by those high and mighty celestial dragons, one day. Since I, Doflamingo, cannot be one of the celestial dragons, then none of you celestial dragons will have an easy time either. Thinking of this, Doflamingo's eyes revealed madness and killing intent, but all of it was completely hidden by his sunglasses. Doffy, I heard that Guy Bullet has been captured by the Marines. The one who took action was that Garp. Pika, who was 4 meters 30 centimeters tall, followed behind Doflamingo, looking very happy. However, his voice sounded very high-pitched and sharp. Compared to his gladiator armor and rugged muscular appearance, it gave a strong sense of incongruity. Foo, that guy is clearly a brainless idiot. People like that never last long no matter what they do, their end is destined to be miserable. Doflamingo walked with arrogant, unrestrained steps, sneering as he strolled leisurely towards his base along the piles of industrial waste that formed mountains along the island's edge. Sometimes I wonder why there are so many stupid people in this world who only use their fists but don't use their brains to think. No matter how strong a person's strength is, how many opponents can they handle? Strategy, influence, military power, financial power, and even reputation, identity, these things are actually part of strength. Pika listened intently to Doflamingo's words. He greatly admired the latter's confident appearance. Their Don Quixote family's young masters should be this excellent, this smart. The fact that their Don Quixote family could develop to its current scale was inseparable from Doflamingo's planning and leadership. But just as the two approached their small building by the sea, they immediately sensed something was wrong. Doflamingo knew the benefits of raising loyal subordinates from a young age, so he adopted many young orphans and brought them here to keep by his side if they showed promise. So usually, when he reached this spot, he could hear the playful sounds of the 9-year-old Gladius, 6-year-old Buffalo, and Monet, among other children. But now, it was quiet, very quiet. Besides the sound of sea waves crashing and seagulls cry in the air, there was no other human sound. Treble. Diamante. Soon, the small building came into view. Seeing the scene of ruin, Pika shouted in shock. At this moment, the cadres and children of the Don Quixote family were all lying on the ground, unconscious or dead. Doflamingo's pupils contracted into needle points, and a dangerous aura emanated from him. Those familiar with him knew that Doffy was angry. Doflamingo was a person who deeply cared for his family. To him, Virgo, Treble, Diamante, and Pika, who were the first to appear by his side, were his family. Let alone someone harming them, even a single mocking word would result in a ruthless retaliation. Previously, Buffalo had laughed at Pika's voice and was severely beaten by the latter. Doflamingo did not stop it at all. Even if Pika had killed Buffalo on the spot, his eyelid wouldn't have twitched. Close, distant, outsiders, enemies, these 4 types of people were clearly and distinctly divided in his heart. Pika instantly disappeared from his spot, appearing before Treble with extreme speed and crouching down to check on him. The latter's coat, which he often wore and was thick like a quilt, had melted into a puddle of blue slime, leaving his thin upper body exposed on the ground. A golden cane broken in 2 lay beside him. Diamante, not far away, looked even worse. His abdomen was bruised purple, clearly showing he had suffered a heavy blow, and scarlet blood stained the corner of his mouth. Phew. Not dead, still breathing, thank goodness. Pika first felt a wave of relief, then immediately became furious. His already high-pitched voice became even sharper and more piercing. Who did this? Who did this? The person is inside. Doflamingo stopped in front of Pika and reminded him, his eyes fixed on the small building. As soon as he finished speaking, the door on the first floor was pushed open from the inside. A very thin and tall figure, wearing a white mask on his face, a white suit, and a coat, walked out. Who are you? Doflamingo pulled his hands out of his pocket. Actually, with his temper, he should have attacked without a word, but his observation hockey sensed a powerful and dangerous aura, which made him cautious. But the white-clothed person did not answer. Instead, he tilted his head to look at Pika. The next moment, with a whoosh, he disappeared from his spot, then appeared in front of Pika. This caused Doflamingo and Pika's expressions to change, especially the latter, who immediately activated armament hockey, full body coating, covering his entire body in a layer of black. However, the white-clothed person's speed was too fast. Pika couldn't make any further move before his abdomen was struck by a heavy punch. He was instantly sent flying back like a giant cannonball. Dang, at the same time, Doflamingo's 5-color string swung towards him was easily pinched by the white-clothed person's left palm. This extremely thin string, as tough and sharp as piano wire, capable of easily cutting a sea ship in half, was completely unable to harm the latter's palm. This made the former inwardly think, not good. Don Quixote Doflamingo, some matter are only suitable for you to hear alone. By the way, I am from the world government. But just as Doflamingo was preparing to attack further, the white-clothed person suddenly spoke to stop him, and after speaking, he released the 5-color string. Doflamingo watched the white-clothed person retreat a few meters. After hesitating for a few seconds, he still withdrew his hand, suppressing the brutality and anger in his heart. Firstly, the strength displayed by the latter was clearly much stronger than his. Secondly, Pica, Diamante, and the others were not in life-threatening danger, merely unconscious. From these 2 points, it could be seen that the other party indeed had no killing intent. Furthermore, this person claimed to be from the world government, and his dressing style was indeed very similar, just changed from a black suit to a white suit. At this time, Doflamingo was encountering Cypher Paul Zero agent for the first time. "What do you want to say?" the white-clothed person said coldly. "The Lord want to see you. Come with me." "Mary Joyce?" Doflamingo's eyes widened in surprise beneath his sunglasses. "The 5 elders sent you." "That's right." Hearing this, Doflamingo's face became even darker. He sneered through clenched teeth. "When I wanted to go back, you refused. Now you want me to obediently go back? What do you take me for? Also, you knocked them unconscious just to deliver this one sentence?" The white-clothed person heard the questioning but showed no change. His tone remained cold, like a machine without emotion, and he said, "Your people attacked first. As for the one just now, I found that knocking them unconscious is a very simple approach. So, what is your decision? Come, or refuse?" Doflamingo sneered and retorted. "What if I say I'm not going? Knock you out, and take you away?" The contracted author, who was typing rapidly on the keyboard in front of the computer, lowered his head and respectfully reported. Reporting to Redder Lord, the book currently has 221 collection, 325 recommendations, 51 monthly pass, and is ranked 47th in the light novel category on the new book ranking for contracted author. However, facing opponents in the myriad worlds with just these is still far from enough. Please give your instructions. Chapter 34, The Changes in Moria and Shiryu. Impel down, underground level 4, blazing hell. The environment here remained the same as the abyss-like depths of the earth, scorching hot, dry, and filled with a nauseating smell of blood. Prisoners wearing zebra-striped prison uniforms, under the harsh scolding and whipping of fierce-looking jailers, endured the burning pain in their feet. They carried bundles of firewood towards the boiling blood pool, then lined up to throw them into the sea of fire beneath the large pot. At this moment, Gecko Moria, who had just become a low-ranking jailer, was moving in and out of the prison cells, holding a 2-meter-long large scissors. Just like now, he had just walked out of one prison cell and opened the next cell door. Under the terrified gaze of the prisoner inside, he grabbed the upper body of the person like catching a chicken with his left hand, snipped off the shadow beneath them with a snip, and then casually flung it onto the wall. Immediately after, he threw the struggling shadow in his hand into the shadow box he carried with him, like garbage. This shadow box was actually shaped and created from his own shadow, his shadow doppelganger. Because to preserve shadows, besides a physical body, only a box that is also a shadow can do it. Compared to the former, the latter can store a nearly infinite number of shadows. After all, shadows don't have much substance, they can be kneaded and stuffed into the shadow box. He had prepared 4 such shadow boxes, specifically for storing the shadows of prisoners from Blazing Hell, Starvation Hell, Beast Hell, and Crimson Hell. Warden Columbus stipulated that he could only move between these 4 levels. This was because the prisoners held in underground level 5, Freezing Hell, were all great pirates with bounty over 100 million, and the prisoners in underground level 6, Infinite Hell, were even more extraordinary. Every single one was a monster-level pirate who had been erased from history due to their extreme wickedness. Moria didn't care. The prisoners on these 4 levels were enough for him to snip for several years. It was quite good to have 2 fewer levels, at least on the surface. He appeared very obedient. Moreover, he found that the environment in Impel Down was very suitable for his life. This place, where the sun was never seen, was very comfortable for Ogre tribe people. The only downside was that he could no longer perform the light burial ritual. Just as Moria walked out of a prison cell with a cold face, preparing to head to the next one, 2 colleagues wearing jailer uniforms and holding muskets were patrolling and chatting. Although their voices were lowered, they were still quite noticeable in this environment. Chief Guard Shiryu is actually being transferred out. That's great. With that killing star gone, we low-level jailers won't have to worry about dying by our own people's blades someday. You can say that again. But the happiest one should be the prisoners, right? In these past years, those who died by Chief Guard Shiryu's hand number at least 100, no, several hundred, if not 1,000? Hearing this, Moria paid no attention, as he truly didn't know anyone named Shiryu. On the other hand, Vice Warden Magellan left a deep impression on him. The way he emitted poison gas all over was quite terrifying. Warden Columbus's aura was even more unfathomable, definitely not someone he could deal with in his current state. However, there was a problem. How could he get promoted in this place? By earning merit? But where would the merit come from? Thinking of this, Moria stopped in his tracks, completely stunned. He thought to himself, this is bad. It looks like, as long as the world government is willing, I'll never get promoted in my entire life. So, I might really have to stay here for 20 years? For some reason, his thoughts began to wander. He inexplicably linked it to the future. If he was still a jailer 10 years from now, what would he be considered? The strongest jailer in Impel Down's history? In the warden's office in the distance, Shiryu had completed his resignation procedures with the warden and was walking out with a paper bag containing various documents. But upon coming out, he saw a man in black standing there, nearly 5 meters tall, dressed in a devil-like style with long, curved horns on his head and demonic bat wings on his back. Yo, Vice Warden Magellan, I didn't expect you to come see me off. Looks like you don't hate me that much after all. Shiryu teased. No, I hate you very much. Magellan didn't give his soon-to-depart former colleague any face, saying with a cold expression. I just came to personally watch you get out of Impel Down, to make sure I really won't see you again in the future. Oh my, how heartless. Shiryu didn't get angry. He grinned and took out an expensive cigar from his coat pocket, put it in his mouth, lit it with a lighter, and took a deep drag of smoke. He glanced at the harsh environment of blazing hell, exhaling thick smoke as he sighed. Actually, I quite like this place. I wonder if Ryu will still be well fed once I get to the Marines. With that, he brushed past Magellan and walked towards the elevator leading to sea level. The latter watched the former's figure walk further and further away, shaking his head and sighing. I don't know what kind of wind blew through the Marines that they wanted this scoundrel. I hope someone over there can keep him in check, otherwise, there's bound to be a river of blood. But conversely, for their Impel Down, it was indeed a great thing. Shiryu arrived at sea level via the elevator, carrying a heart full of regret and nostalgia. This place was as lively as ever. Newly captured prisoners were lined up, waiting for their stripping and baptism. Yes, a full-body baptism in 100-degree boiling water, absolutely stimulating. Then they would change into brand new black and white striped prison uniforms and undergo a second disinfection using the high temperature in underground level 4's blazing hell. Finally, after being left half dead, they would be thrown into different hells according to their bounty. The jailers and other staff supervising the prisoners were stunned when they saw Shiryu's figure, and not a single person dared to come up and greet him or anything. At most, they watched him leave with gazes full of fear or relief. Shiryu didn't care about this. In his eyes, these were all weaklings. And weaklings weren't worthy of his concern at all. They were only suitable for passing the time and letting Ryu drink blood. After passing through the iron bars, he saw the great gate leading to the outside world. This was a gate embedded in a high wall, made entirely of solid steel. The rest was simple. He smoothly boarded the warship that had came to pick him up and slowly sailed away from this great undersea prison where he had stayed for many years. Strangely, just moments ago, he had seemed nostalgic. Now, Shiryu didn't even turn back to look. His eyes were instead filled with anticipation for the future. Regardless, coming out from inside was equivalent to being free. If things weren't going well in the Marines, he could leave whenever he wanted, right? Therefore, Shiryu was in a very pleasant mood right now. So pleasant that his gaze towards the surrounding Marine soldiers turned slightly red, and he suddenly felt a bit itchy. However, when the warship sailed out of the first gates of justice, he sensed something was wrong. Because the ship did not follow the triangle current towards the next gates of justice. Aren't we going to Maniford to report? Shiryu asked the major commanding at the front, while a sense of vigilance arose in his heart. That was the original plan, but because you have been transferred to serve as Vice Admiral Akanu's adjutant, and Vice Admiral Akanu has just received a mission, he notified us to take you directly to him. We will return to Maniford together after completing this mission. Because Shiryu had been appointed to the military rank of headquarters colonel, the major naturally used respectful language in his reply. Vice Admiral Akanu? Shiryu's expression froze. Although he had been working in Impel Down, he wasn't completely ignorant of the outside world. The World Economic Journal was delivered on time every issue, and coupled with the harsh environment inside, reading the newspaper had become the primary leisure activity. Therefore, he knew about the 3 newly promoted admiral candidates in the Marines. Sakazuki, the Logia System Mag Fruit ability user who rose to power? Yes. Current data, Collection 233, Recommendation 341. Monthly Pass 1, Contracted Author New Book Ranking Light Novel Category Number 47, around 20 readers following, and very few comments. Chapter 35, Shiryu's Style. 2 hours later, the warship successfully rendezvoused with another warship. Following the Major's instructions, Shiryu stepped onto the deck of the latter alone via gangplank. At the same time, he saw the back of Sakazuki standing at the bow of the ship at a glance. In Shiryu's eyes, although Vice Admiral Akanya was a head shorter than him, the aura emanating from his entire body was much more imposing than Magellan's. This made his mood slightly heavy, and his expression had long since become restrained. Report, Vice Admiral Akanya. Former Impel Down Chief Guard, now Marine Headquarters Colonel, Shiryu, reporting for duty. As soon as he finished speaking, Sakazuki slowly turned around, his arms crossed over his chest, and his oppressive gaze swept over the former. You, the Chief Guard of Impel Down, specifically responsible for guarding prisoners, what is your view on pirates? Speak your mind. Upon hearing this, Shiryu subconsciously pondered the other party's intention. His understanding of Sakazuki was limited to what was introduced in the newspaper, the Admiral Candidate title and Elogia system Magmag Fruit ability. As for his personality, likes, and dislikes, he was completely unaware. Since that was the case, he chose to answer according to his true feelings. A bunch of trash. Except for ability users, the rest shouldn't be locked up and waste food. If we absolutely must make use of them, they can only be used as target practice for soldiers' guns and straw mats for testing blades. Sakazuki raised an eyebrow. Although his expression remained calm, he felt quite satisfied in his heart. He had originally thought that if someone soft-hearted came, he would just kick them off and make them swim back to Maniford to wait for reassignment. Not bad. I hope you can back up your words later. After speaking, he gave an order to the Marine soldier waiting beside him, depart. Yes, sir. The Marine soldier quickly ran back to the cabin to relay the order. Soon, the colossal ship beneath their feet began to move. You should have some understanding of this mission, right? Sakazuki asked in a deep voice. Shiryu nodded. On the way over, he had already read the mission details sent by the other party. It stated that the Maudare Kingdom, located on the 4th island of Route Number 1 in the first half of the Grand Line, was under attack by a large number of pirates. Route Number 1 happened to be close to the Combelt Sea area where Impel Down was located, so they were considered the nearest warship. Upon hearing the words large number of pirates, Sakazuki immediately accepted the mission, giving Maniford no chance to transfer it to other nearby warships. Also to save time, Sakazuki did not go to Impel Down to pick up Shiryu, but instead had the latter quickly come over on another person's warship. For this mission, I won't make the first move. You will lead the team to resolve it. No problem, I'm also looking forward to it. Shiryu touched the red ribbon hilt of Ryu at his waist with his right hand, revealing a cold smile. He really didn't expect to have a chance to kill extensively as soon as he left Impel Down. He was even more satisfied with this transfer, though his commanding officer seemed overly strong. In Impel Down, although he, the chief guard, was the third in command, he was effectively the second in command. Except for Warden Columbus's orders, he didn't need to pay attention to anyone, including Vice Warden Magellan. As for the other jailer beasts and chief guards, seeing him was no different from a mouse seeing a cat. As for Warden Columbus, unless the world government required his cooperation, his presence was usually not strong, and he didn't speak much. He even turned a blind eye to Shiryu occasionally killing prisoners privately. He basically didn't care about the prisoners on the first 4 levels. In his eyes, only prisoners with a bounty of over 100 million starting from the 5th level were considered important assets. On the contrary, Magellan often reprimanded him for these things, which was why he found the former very annoying. He had just killed some small fry, why keep nagging endlessly? When a headquarters warship, meticulously crafted by the shipwrights of Water 7, sailed at full speed, it displayed astonishing efficiency and speed, reaching the sea area near the Maudare Kingdom in just 1 hour and 7 minutes. At this distance, Sakazuki, Shiryu, and the others on the deck could already hear the roaring sound carried by the sea wind. Looking into the distance, they could vaguely see 7 or 8 battleships flying pirate flags, constantly bombarding the town on the island. Among them, one ship gradually stopped its bombardment and slowly turned its bow, appearing to be sailing out of the dock and preparing to leave. Looks like they've spotted us. Shiryu chuckled while the sea wind blew. He casually took out a cigar, put it in his mouth, and lit it. Whenever he was about to kill, especially many people, his emotions would become excited. At such times, taking a puff of smoke was the greatest enjoyment for him. Sakazuki did not respond to or interfere with his words and actions. Since he had said earlier that this mission was entrusted to the other party, he let him do as he pleased. Of course, he wouldn't actually let the pirates escape right in front of him. Swish, the next second, like the other marine officers, Shiryu, wearing his coat of justice, turned into an afterimage and disappeared from the spot, leaving only a faint trail of smoke drifting in the air. This made the officers, field grade, and Marine soldiers on the deck quite look forward to the adjutant's upcoming performance. At the same time, the other pirate battleships also stopped their bombardment and hastily turned their bows. Clearly, they had also discovered the approaching colossal warship. Among them, the first ship to react had already completed its turn and was heading in another direction. Faster! Go faster! Now is not the time to engage the Marines. On the pirate ship, an iron-armored giant, nearly 4 meters tall, with a sturdy build and a fierce look, waved the cutlass in his hand and urged loudly. As for the other pirates on the ship, regardless of their demeanor or attire, they looked like very normal soldiers. In short, they didn't feel like pirates. Whoosh! Just then, a sharp sound of rushing air rang out beside their ears. This caused the giant and the crewmates to change color drastically. The former even subconsciously shouted, "Watch out for bombardment." It wasn't just him, everyone thought the warship in the distance had opened fire. But after a few seconds, as the sound of rushing air disappeared, nothing happened. Let alone the ship being hit by bombardment, not even a water spout erupted on the sea surface. This caused rows of golden question marks to light up above their heads. Yo, trash, your time to die has come. Give me a smile. Suddenly, a chilling, sinister laugh sounded from above. Everyone simultaneously looked up and indeed saw a Marine officer over 3 meters tall standing at the top of the mast, looking at them mockingly with pupils that glowed red. You! The giant raised his cutlass and pointed at the other party. Just as he was about to say something fiercely, the person within his sight disappeared in the blink of an eye. He only vaguely seemed to see a hint of blood-red light. Ka! Boss Cass! The surrounding pirates were stunned because they saw the Marine who was on the mast the previous second instantly appear behind Boss Cass, and the long saber at his waist was already drawn, flashing with cold light under the sunlight. At the same time, a thin line of blood gradually appeared on the giant's neck, and the armor on his body shattered and fell to the ground. Who knows how many times he was slashed in that instant. Shiryu didn't even spare a glance for Cass behind him. Even if the other party was still breathing and consciousness before him, in his eyes, he was already a corpse. Swish! The next second, his entire body turned into a white afterimage, rapidly moving through the startled cries and screams of hundreds of armed pirates. Streaks of blood-red blade light cut through the air. When Shiryu kills, he doesn't like cutting ships or destroying battleships. Instead, he prefers to slash them to death one by one with the blade in his hand. The sensation of the blade cutting through flesh truly intoxicates him. As the saying goes, killing is a bad habit, but he just can't quit it. Chapter 36, Sakazuki's Appreciation and Satisfaction. The entire pirate ship, with over 100 people from top to bottom, fell into a pool of blood within just 10 seconds, clutching their necks. Shiryu stood amidst the corpses with a look of satisfaction, his gaze full of killing intent sweeping towards the remaining pirate ships. Boom. 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 The warship where Sakazuki was located began exchanging bombardment with the 7 pirate ships. Red-hot black cannonballs whistled and shot through the air, either landing in the sea and raising tall water spouts, or smashing into the hulls, exploding into large bursts of gunfire flash. Especially the triple-barreled turret at the bow of the warship completely overwhelmed the opposing pirate ships in terms of range, firing speed, and accuracy. The ship deck's defense was even more vastly different, even taking a few cannonball hits only left shallow marks, causing no impact whatsoever on the Marines aboard the ship. At this moment, Sakazuki maintained his posture with his arms crossed over his chest. He appeared to be gazing at the struggling pirates, but in reality, his sight was fixed on Shiryu's figure. In his eyes, Shiryu had just leaped from the first pirate ship, then skimmed across the sea surface at an extremely fast speed, leaving trails of afterimages behind him. Every time his body showed a tendency to drop, he would lightly step on a wave crest, using the force generated by blasting the wave open with his foot to continue moving forward at high speed. Sakazuki was also an expert proficient in 6 powers. He could tell at a glance that this was Shiryu's moonwalk technique, just adapted from stepping on air to stepping on sea waves. Compared to air, stepping on sea waves was actually a bit easier. Immediately after, he saw Shiryu jump onto the second pirate ship and begin a new round of bloody slaughter, which made Sakazuki frown slightly. It wasn't that he was dissatisfied with killing pirates, but rather that he felt Shiryu's method was too inefficient. If it were him, he would have long ago used a great eruption to engulf and destroy all the pirate ships. Shiryu's strength clearly reached the level of a sword master. Logically, he should also be able to unleash flying slash attacks to quickly cut ships in half. Even if he couldn't cut 7 ships with one strike, cutting 1 ship with 1 strike should be no problem, right? From the current situation, if Shiryu continued killing 1 ship after another like this, he would end up letting 1 or 2 ships of pirates escape. However, before those pirate ships sailed out of Sakazuki's attack range, he didn't want to intervene prematurely. Anyway, it was just a matter of 1 or 2 high-angle lava bombs. With the perception prediction from observation hockey, he could achieve precise strikes when dealing with large targets like sea ships. In this regard, even the warship beneath his feet was far inferior to himself. But sometimes, as a commander, one couldn't personally act in every situation. The military principle, soldiers against soldiers, commanders against commanders, had its reasons. As a commander, one shouldn't carelessly snatch military merit from their subordinates. On Shiryu's side, he cut through the pirate charging at him, slicing both the person and their sword in half. He watched with excitement as the head slid down behind the broken sword, and a column of blood shot into the sky. Awesome. Looking back, the ground behind him was already covered in corpses and a pool of blood. Vice Admiral Akanyu, Cypher Pol 5 agent hidden in Mader Kingdom, has sent detailed intelligence. A headquarters major on the warship ran over and reported loudly. He had to raise his voice, otherwise the whistling sound of flying cannonballs and the subsequent explosions could easily drown out a person's voice. "Tell me," Sakazuki said in a deep voice. "Most of these pirates are civilians from that nation. Their leader is named Cass, originally a mid-level commander in the Royal Army. 2 weeks ago, his wife and daughter were taken by Viscount Gadel of that nation, and a week ago, they were sold to a slave company by him. Because of this, Cass led his trusted soldiers, inciting the civilians who were already dissatisfied with the nobility to rebel. First, they seized the Royal Army battleships at the dock, then hoisted the pirate flag they had prepared onto the mast, and subsequently attacked the Royal Army under the name of the Cass Pirates. They plundered all the grain and treasure from the dock warehouse and bombarded the upper city where the royalty and nobility lived for nearly half an hour. It is said that the area is now a ruin, and the nobility suffered heavy casualties. After hearing about yet another incident where nobility forced officials, soldiers, and civilians into rebellion, Sakazuki was silent for a moment, then coldly uttered a word. "Fools." The headquarters major thought he was cursing the Viscount, which made him dare not say more. That fool named Cass not only killed himself but also everyone who followed him, Sakazuki said, looking at the pirate ships in the distance being attacked by Shiryu. If he hadn't raised the pirate flag, this matter would have little to do with us Marines. The major suddenly understood, thinking to himself. That's right, if that Cass hadn't raised the pirate flag, then they wouldn't be pirates, but rather an internal strife within Mader Kingdom, and naturally wouldn't attract the Marines' capture. According to world government law, the Marines have no authority to arbitrarily interfere with the internal strife of their affiliated countries. Unless the king of that nation first applies for aid from the world government, and then the political affairs department, based on the intelligence investigated by Cypher Pol, discusses and decides whether or not to help that nation. If they decide to help, they must notify Marine headquarters to send troops for rescue. Subsequently, the fleet admiral must also hand over the files of the main personnel of the rebel army to the relevant departments to determine their bounty amount and wanted poster. Finally, they must also consider what level of officers to dispatch and how large a fleet to send. This process, from start to finish, would take at least 1 or 2 days at the fastest. Adding the travel time, it would take at least 3 or 4 days. For nations further away, it would take even longer. It was clear that the king of Mader Kingdom was well aware of these rules, so he directly called the Marines and said that a large number of pirates had attacked his nation. This way, it bypassed the various cumbersome procedures up front, and the Marines only needed to notify nearby warships to rush over. But what was the reality? Cass and his group had only just raised the pirate flag, they themselves had not been given a bounty by the Marines. So, could they be considered pirates? Yes. Because they raised the pirate flag. According to Marine regulations, as long as a ship flies a pirate flag or has a skeleton pattern painted on its sail, it is a pirate ship. Even if they haven't been given a bounty, they can still be captured. At most, a bounty can be added later, or even not given at all since they've already been captured. Therefore, Cass and the others being slaughtered by Shiryu couldn't really be said to be wronged, it was just as Sakazuki said, they were too foolish, and that king was too clever. While the warship was learning the details of this mission, Shiryu's Mdo Rain had already killed the pirates on 5 ships. But just as Sakazuki had predicted earlier, 2 ships had gradually sailed away, or rather, were desperately fleeing. This caused hot magma to begin flowing from his right arm. Rolling black smoke curled up into the blue sky. As the fiery red magma dripped onto the deck, a strong smell of sulfur permeated the air. Buzz, just as Sakazuki was about to make a move, a wide, scarlet blade light suddenly flashed, then swiftly swept across the sea surface at an astonishing flying speed, instantly cutting off the main mast and sail of the 2 pirate ships. With the sail falling into the sea, The ships could no longer use the power of the wind for voyage, and their speed quickly slowed down. Before long, they were just drifting with the sea waves, completely becoming giant wooden coffins on the sea. The more than 200 people on board could only watch in despair as the bloodthirst demon approached. Not long after, screams and battle cries rang out continuously, but they only lasted for about half a minute before falling silent again. Excellent. Sakazuki's eyes were filled with appreciation. He had originally planned to have Onigamo as his adjutant, but this Shiryu was also very good. Since they raised the pirate flag and intended to form a pirate crew, they deserved to die and had no right to continue breathing the air. Pirates are all damn trash. Chapter 37 The King of the Celestial Dragons. The night sky of this world is very peculiar. Although scholars have determined through astronomical observation that there are as many as 8 satellites orbiting this blue planet, when night falls, only the moon emits the brightest light in the galaxy. Fufufufafu Doflamingo stepped out of the stopped bubble cable car. A gust of cold night wind blew his pink flamingo overcoat. However, he discovered that there wasn't even a single Holy Land garrison guard on duty nearby. This made him chuckle in a low voice while observing the giant staircase leading to the upper levels in front of him. Although so many years have passed, this place really hasn't changed at all. But can power really be immortal for thousands of years like these stone steps? Let's go, the adults are waiting for you. At this time, the Cypher Pol Zero agent member, white-clothed person, who had specially invited Doflamingo from North Blue, urged him. Immediately after, he passed over the former's shoulder and took the lead, stepping onto the giant staircase. A few months later, 200 kings from the affiliated nations will also walk through here, and then gather together in the World Conference Hall inside Bangia Castle to discuss and decide major events concerning the entire world. At this moment, only the 2 of them, one in front and one behind. Reaching the top of the giant staircase, they arrived at the real Marijois. This place called Holy Land, even the ground underfoot was clean and tidy. It seemed like every single gravel had been washed. Doflamingo raised his eyes and looked into the distance. Although it was night now, the countless lights had already illuminated the entire Marijois as if it were daytime. Even the rows of woods and river were shimmering with a faint layer of golden light. This was magnificent and resplendent, brightly lit in the true sense of the word. Seeing this scene, his body was trembling faintly, because he was trying hard to suppress the anger and desire in his heart. He originally should be living here, high above, doing whatever he wants, looking down on all humans below. Although only a few short years, he had to say that Doflamingo's happiest childhood was actually in this place. Here, servants bowed their heads before him, slaves knelt before him, delicacies that he couldn't finish even if he changed the variety every day, endless wealth that he didn't need to worry about money, and supreme power to kill any life except for his clan at any time. All these, originally all belonged to him. Until that extremely stupid idiot destroyed everything and took away everything with his ridiculous naivety. His mother died because of him, and his younger brother also disappeared afterwards. Although he personally executed that bastard back then, what was lost could never be regained. Doflamingo followed Cypher Pol Zero agent and walked onto the automatic elevator, letting the underground slaves get up late at night for him and desperately push the heavy stone path for him. Regarding all of this, the former actually didn't know, but based on his personality, presumably even if he knew, he would only feel enjoyment and have no other thoughts. Because, he, originally should be high above. On the way, Doflamingo saw from afar the great iron gate leading to the land of gods. The Holy Land garrison at that place were still on duty. He knew, his former home was there. But he only glanced at it, his final gaze turned to the huge ancient castle getting closer and closer, Pangaea Castle, which represented the center of world power. Fufufufafu, hope you guys won't disappoint me this time. Doflamingo subconsciously pursed his lips, a little nervous. He was only 17 years old this year. Whether it was temperament, sophistication, or strength, he was still very immature. Even his experience was limited to that small piece of land in North Blue. Not long after, Doflamingo arrived in front of Pangaea Castle. The huge main gate made of steel slowly rose. To be honest, having arrived here, everything became unfamiliar. After all, how could he have came to this place when he was a child? So he could only be vigilant while silently following Cypher Pol Zero agent, and at the same time, firmly remember the nearby environment in his heart. This city within a city, the space inside is quite large, but just don't know why, he still didn't see a single patrolling or guarding soldier, and it was very quiet. Until he was led to a cold, dark empty great hall. Only the golden red throne on the 3-tiered magnificent stone platform was shining brightly under the moonlight directly shining down. But, there was no one on it either. Isn't it to meet the 5 elders, huh? Doflamingo had just scanned the surroundings, and when he turned his head to ask, He immediately discovered that the other person was gone. Bang! At this moment, the great iron gate behind him heavily closed. This stimulated his whole body. His 5 fingers became claws, his body bent, and he instantly entered combat state from head to toe. Even the hockey that he had just mastered not long ago was ready to be unleashed. Doflamingo now seriously suspected that this was a trap, a celestial dragon's trap targeting himself. He was like a trapped wildcat, bearing fangs and brandishing claws, closely surveying every move around him. Even more, there were slender threads faintly fluttering between his fingers. The atmosphere became very stiff and awkward. It was as if the air were frozen at this moment, but time still slowly passed by like flowing water. Until, Doflamingo looked up again at the void throne truly high above his head. But just this one glance shocked his whole body to freeze there. It was as if he had been subjected to some kind of stasis effect. The eye sockets under his sunglasses also widened to the maximum. His pupils were full of the figure sitting on the throne at some unknown time. This was not the most terrifying thing for him. The key was that when his gaze met the eyesight of the one above, his spirit was as if it had received a substantial invisible impact. An extremely strong sense of fear constantly washed over his heart. He only felt that he was spinning wildly in a golden ripple world. The surrounding air was vibrating and gradually becoming heavy. Every muscle in his body was trembling painfully. In addition to his spirit being inexplicably shocked, Doflamingo couldn't even last for 2 seconds. With a bang, he knelt down on both knees, only his arms desperately propped up the cold ground, gritting his teeth and tried to raise his head. But the invisible heavy pressure on his body made his vein-bulging head only able to bow, staring intently at the spotless precious red carpet in front of him. Who was this person? 5 elders? How could there be such a terrifying person? Just one eyesight made me kneel and unable to get up? Little Don Quixote Family Guy, it is Mew, who wants to see you. As soon as the voice fell, Doflamingo only felt that the pressure on his body had lessened a lot. But when he was panting heavily, covered in cold sweat, and preparing to get up, the air on his body was like a solidified invisible mountain, motionless. This made him only able to continue maintaining the kneeling posture, unless he was willing to lie on the ground completely. You on Earth. Who are you? Doflamingo laboriously uttered word after word. That feeling of fear surrounding his heart really made him extremely painful. As for the heavy pressure on his body, he also discovered that as long as he didn't have the thought of getting up, the air was still ordinary air. Such magical means made him subconsciously feel that this was some kind of devil fruit ability. Mew is your king. Extremely indifferent words came down from the void throne and echoed in the empty great hall. The King of the Celestial Dragons. Chapter 38, The Birth of the 7 Warlords of the Sea. The King of the Celestial Dragons? Don Quixote Doflamingo, forced to remain in a kneeling posture, was stunned when he heard this. He had thought the person was one of the 5 elders. But now, these words seemed to indicate otherwise. Or did this so-called king consist of 5 people? Foo even in such a terrifying situation, Doflamingo managed to force out a laugh, though his pale face and the cold sweat dripping from his forehead made him look extremely pathetic. Then, the king. The King of the Celestial Dragons, what important matter do you, oh no, your highness, have with me? I stopped being a celestial dragon a long time ago. The pressure on his body suddenly decreased, and his words finally returned to normal, though his heavy gasps made them sound intermittent. From the moment you knelt down, your celestial dragon qualification was restored. The person above replied lightly. Doflamingo pondered this sentence. He felt the meaning of this sentence was that only celestial dragons were qualified to kneel before the other party, so by kneeling down, he had regained his celestial dragon identity? Utterly arrogant. This was his second impression of the other party. The first impression was overwhelming power. Don Quixote Doflamingo bestows upon you the honor of the 7 Warlords of the Sea, granting you the qualification to receive direct orders from him. This was another extremely arrogant statement, containing a dominance that brooked no refusal. What are the 7 Warlords of the Sea? Doflamingo voiced his confusion, but this time, he waited a long time without hearing a reply. This made him hesitate. After about 10 minutes passed, he cautiously tried to raise his head. Immediately, he found that everything had returned to normal, and the empty throne was empty. When did he leave? Doflamingo stood up with an extremely grim expression, feeling that everything he had just experienced was utterly inexplicable. The King of the Celestial Dragons? The 7 Warlords of the Sea? Right, he had also easily regained his celestial dragon identity. What should he say? What should he do next? Just go back like this? Just as Doflamingo was caught in his dilemma, the gate behind him slowly opened again. This time, he turned around immediately. But just as he was about to make a defensive move, he saw 5 middle-aged men wearing white robes appear before him. Relax, young man. We are the 5 elders you wish to see. Doflamingo scoffed inwardly upon hearing this. Didn't you guys invite me? How did it become me wanting to see you? But he also breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. Finally, there was someone he could have a normal conversation with. Let's go, come sit with us. We will explain the specific situation clearly. Foo-foo-foo-foo, if that's the case, why did you 5 need to come personally? Couldn't you have just sent someone to bring me over? Doflamingo sneered. Within Pangaea Castle, any matter involving Lord Amu is personally handled by the 5 of us. The bald old man holding a long saber and wearing a white kimono underneath said expressionlessly. Following this, the 5 of them tacitly turned and left the main hall again. Seeing this, Doflamingo could only follow, as he was still full of questions. Not long after, he followed the 5 elders to a luxurious and spacious room. The sofa in the center was particularly eye-catching. He saw the 5 people in front sit back in their usual positions. Saint Topman Warcurry, sitting in the very center, pointed to the empty sofa. You can sit there. Doflamingo had no opinion. He walked over with arrogant, swaggering steps and plopped down. He was used to sitting on sofas, so he was quite skilled at it. Speaking of which, this is the first time someone other than the 5 elders has sat on the sofa in this room of authority. You are the first. That's truly an honor then, Doflamingo said with a grin, sitting cross-legged. There's no need for honor. You are now an envoy of Lord Amu, a member of the 7 warlords of the sea, and you have regained your celestial dragon identity. You are fully qualified to sit with us. Saint Shepherd Jupiter said with a smile. Then can you tell me, who exactly is this Lord Amu, and what are the 7 warlords of the sea? Doflamingo was still young and couldn't help but ask somewhat impatiently. His heart and mind had been greatly impacted, and he truly couldn't calm down. Hey, don't rush. We'll explain them one by one. Among the 5 elders, Saint Topman Warcurry seemed to be the leader. His voice sounded the most steady and majestic, giving off a subtle sense of oppression. Lord Amu is our master, and the king of all celestial dragons. He is the founder of the world government, the true controller. The supreme existence of the past, present, and future. If this world must have a god, then this is the only god in the river of history. His tone was filled with fanatical worship. His expression when introducing him was like that of an extremely devout believer desperately suppressing the excitement in his heart. Although the other 4 did not speak, the light in their gazes was consistent. However, as the saying goes, ignorance is bliss. Although Doflamingo had just personally experienced him's terror, he hadn't grown up in Marijois and hadn't been exposed to the most hidden history. Therefore, his feelings towards him were more of fear and apprehension. Among the introduction, he immediately grasped the key point, the founder of the world government. Didn't this mean that the man sitting on the empty throne was likely someone who had lived from 800 years ago until now? Thinking of this, Doflamingo's mood became even heavier. Then, what about the 7 warlords of the sea? As we just said, the 7 warlords of the sea are the envoys of Lord Amu. They not only have the qualification to meet with us directly but also the qualification to receive direct orders from the Lord. However, you need to keep this identity a secret, and the matter of you regaining your celestial dragon identity is the same. Hearing this, Doflamingo understood and laughed. Foo-foo-foo-foo, it seems you want me to do things for you. Everyone has their value, don't they? Alright, then tell me, what do you want me to do? Doflamingo relaxed and leaned back into the soft sofa. You need to maintain your current public identity, infiltrate the underworld, and provide us with the required intelligence. Of course, during this time, we will also provide you with necessary assistance. Saint Topman Warcurry said directly. Doflamingo smiled after hearing this. Wasn't this exactly what he had planned to do? Becoming a big shot in the underworld was his primary goal. It was just that now he had an additional mission to provide intelligence to the world government, and crucially, he could also receive secret help from the 5 elders. It seemed like he was profiting no matter how he looked at it. Okay, I agree. That's good. Take this. In the future, we will contact you through it for anything. Saint Topman Warcurry said, taking out a golden transponder snail with black ring patterns on its body. Doflamingo took it and examined it in his palm. Just then, the other party suddenly said something that made his heart tremble. By the way, your brother, Don Quixote Rosinante, is currently in Maniford. You captured him? Doflamingo's relaxed expression instantly turned dark. He lowered his voice, his attitude becoming hostile. If that were the case, then you should be staying in Holy Land prison or impel down. St. Marcus Mars said with a sigh from the side. Don't worry, that young man was very lucky. He met Sengoku back then and was even adopted as a foster son. However, his personality is completely opposite to yours. Despite having the same experiences as you, he is a very kind child. This is truly a strange thing. Doflamingo pursed his lips and remained silent for a moment. Then he stood up and said with a sullen face. Is there anything else? If not, I'm leaving. Chapter 39, Fishman Island Marine Branch. 2 months have passed like a river of time since Doflamingo left Mary Jo's. It was now mid-April. However, for the people living on the Grand Line, months were simply months, completely unrelated to climate or season. Furthermore, the reverie in June was drawing closer and closer. Your Majesty, since February of this year, incidents of human pirates breaking in and attempting to abduct mermaids have been continuously increasing. This month, it has become even more rampant. 4 incidents have occurred in just 2 weeks. Fortunately, the Sea King army managed to catch up in time and rescue the people, but it still resulted in over 100 warriors being injured. Your humble servant believes that if this continues, the situation will become even worse. Inside the luxurious main hall of Ryugu Palace on Fishman Island, the catfish fishman left minister looked at King Neptune on the throne with deep worry. It's all because of that great pirate treasure rumor. King Neptune covered his forehead in distress. The rumor was so widespread now that even he, living 10,000 meters beneath the seabed, had heard of it. But what can we do? The basic strength of fishmen is indeed 10 times that of humans, but how could the human pirates who have fought their way through the first half of the Grand Line to reach here possibly be mortals? Ultimately, it's because we don't have an expert holding down the fort. Hearing the king's words, the left minister also had nothing to say. The warriors of the Sea King army were not weak, but they were just not weak. Let alone in the New World, they couldn't even be considered very strong in paradise. Your subordinate, greetings, Your Majesty. Just then, the Seahorse Merman Right Minister rushed in and reported. Your Majesty, the world government ship and marine warship are waiting outside the main gate for entry. Quickly invite them in. King Neptune's eyes lit up, and his mood gradually became excited. He had a premonition that the troubles Fishman Island was currently facing would soon be resolved. After a half-hour that felt like an eternity to the Mermaid King, Coulson, whom he had met before, and a tall marine officer walked into the main hall. Welcome, welcome, welcome Director Coulson back to our Fishman Island as a guest. King Neptune appeared very happy and enthusiastic. Long time no see, Your Majesty the King. Coulson showed his signature smile, then introduced the person beside him. This is Vice Admiral Aokiji from Marine Headquarters, also a newly promoted Admiral candidate. Coulson looked at the giant Mermaid King sitting on the throne and greeted him politely. Hello, I am Coulson. Please take care of me in the future. Hello. King Neptune didn't know what to say, so he turned his gaze to Coulson and asked. What brings the two of you here this time? Coulson maintained a gentle smile on his face. According to the previously signed communique on the establishment of equal and friendly relations between humans, merfolk, and fishmen, I have brought the merfolk and fishmen from Mary Jo's and all affiliated countries. Your Majesty can dispatch personnel to receive them. Really? King Neptune immediately stood up and excitedly instructed the left minister beside him. Quickly take some people to see. Yes, your humble servant will go now. The left minister was also very excited. In the past, trying to get the celestial dragons and those nobility to return the mermaids they had bought would have been a pipe dream, a fantasy. Seeing the left minister's figure disappear outside the main hall door, King Neptune expressed his heartfelt gratitude to Coulson and the world government. Seeing this, Coulson on the side sighed in his heart. Although he didn't know why, the world government seemed to have changed a lot recently. Drum Kingdom was like this, and Fishman Island was also like this. These were all acts of justice that he had witnessed firsthand and even participated in. This made Coulson, whose passion had not yet cooled, unconsciously feel a significant increase in his goodwill towards the world government. Coulson waited for King Neptune's excitement to calm down before speaking again. Your Majesty the King, besides helping with the escort this time, Vice Admiral Aokiji is also preparing to establish a marine branch on Fishman Island. He will be responsible for related matters in the coming years. Marine branch. King Neptune was startled, then immediately remembered that there was indeed such a clause in the communique. He asked. May I ask how many Marines will be stationed here, and where will the branch be built? Coulson did not answer this question. Instead, Coulson was responsible for replying. The tentative plan is for me to bring the first batch of 1,000 headquarters Marines to be stationed on Fishman Island. After the main facilities of the branch are completed, another 4,000 Marine soldiers will be stationed here. After he finished speaking, Coulson continued. The construction of the Marine branch will be handled by the construction team brought by our administrative department. As for the location of the branch, a decision will be made after professionals conduct a survey. We hope Fishman Island can provide some support. Of course, no problem. However, I thought you wouldn't come until at least after the reverie. King Neptune laughed heartily. If everything goes smoothly, according to the construction period, building from now should be completed around the time the reverie ends. Coulson said with a smile. I see. Then, before the branch facilities are completed, where will Vice Admiral Aokiji and the Marines be stationed? King Neptune asked curiously. Coulson replied. During this period, we will live on the warship, ensuring we don't affect the residents. How can that be? Although our Fishman Island is not large, we have plenty of places that can accommodate 1,000 people. King Neptune naturally didn't want to treat Coulson and the Marines poorly. He knew very well that his citizens would rely on their protection for a long time to come. All right, Left Minister, take the Marines to temporarily station at Waterwheel Town in the north, and then have the artisans quickly build a batch of shell houses. Yes, Your Majesty. Then I'll trouble you. Coulson thanked him politely, then followed the orange-skinned seahorse minister route. However, Coulson, who remained, did not leave immediately. Your Majesty Neptune, according to the communique, Fishman Island can also station troops on Sabati Archipelago. We have cleared out Area 62. King Neptune scratched the back of his head awkwardly and laughed. Ah, this. I'm very sorry, we thought this matter wouldn't proceed until after the reverie, so we haven't had time to discuss it yet. Coulson didn't mind, just nodded, and continued. Also, regarding the matter of dispatching mermaids or fishmen to join the world government, Marines, and various other departments, I have brought the number of fishmen the Marines wish to introduce and a list of important fishmen this time. Oh? Tell me. King Neptune was very curious about how many fishmen the Marines would allow to join, and who the so-called important fishmen were. Marine headquarters will introduce a first batch of 200 Fishman tribe or Merfolk tribe members in total. Among them, the Merfolk tribe will primarily handle administrative work, while the Fishman tribe will form a Fishman unit. As he spoke, Coulson took out a white paper from his pocket, on which were recorded the names of several fishmen. The important mermaids are Fisher Tiger, Jinbi, and Aladdin. King Neptune was startled when he heard these three names, then looked confused. I've heard of Fisher Tiger, but Jinbi, Aladdin, who are they? According to intelligence, the 22-year-old whale shark fishman Jinbi and the many-bearded weasel merman Aladdin are currently serving in your seeking army. Outside, the catfish-faced left minister looked strangely at the mermaids and fishmen disembarking from the world government ship. Outwardly, they seemed fine, with no injuries or disabilities. However, their cheerful, smiling faces seemed a bit too optimistic, didn't they? They had been slaves before, after all. However, the left minister could only shake his head in the end, assuming these people were simply too happy. After all, being able to return to Fishman Island alive was indeed something to be thankful for. Chapter 40, The Parimsha System's Munch Fruit. Inside the room of authority in Mary Joyce, Im was looking at the various reports sent by the 5 elders. Since he had decided to personally steer the world government, this kind of work was certainly unavoidable. Regarding Drum Kingdom, the ice stairs and ice bridge connecting to Drum Mountain Peak had been completed thanks to Coulson's efforts. From the photo, they looked extremely magnificent and spectacular, shimmering in the sunlight, truly like miraculous works of art. Especially the ice stairs, as they had a height of a full 5,000 meters. Therefore, the volume and scale of the stairs were incredibly exaggerated, almost encircling half of Drum Mountain Peak, and there were very spacious platform every 1,000 meters. It is said that the administrative department's construction team, in addition to building the facilities for the Medical Academy and World Hospital, would also build some small building, pavilions, and chairs on these platforms for people to rest. However, even so, the difficulty was not small, as construction materials had to be transported up to the 5,000-meter mountain peak. Regarding Jaya Island, it had now become a breeding base for Southbird. The plan is to turn it into the world's largest zoo in the future, housing various rare animals there, and it will also be the largest research ground for zoologists. As for the security work on the island, it was handed over to the army, as there was a Marines G branch nearby. Next, looking at the situation in Water 7. Im picked up the report and read it carefully. Overall, everything was proceeding smoothly. The scrap island, which was originally piled with hundreds of broken ship, had now been cleaned up by the administrative department's construction team. They were rushing to build the new Tom's workers and the sea trains R&D factory. The report mentioned that the reason for the rush was that Water 7 is hit by a super tsunami called Aquilaguna every year in June or July. Therefore, they must build a building facility capable of withstanding the impact of the tsunami and seawater flooding before June. To this end, the administrative department even applied for technical support from the science unit. Seeing this, Im's brows furrowed tightly, and he murmured in a low voice. Aquilaguna, this is indeed a big problem. This Water 7 was previously the main manufacturing plant for marine warship, and in the future, It would be the R&D factory and manufacturing plant for the sea train. Especially the latter, which concerns the transportation issues of all affiliated countries under the world government, must be taken seriously. I need to find a way to solve it, otherwise facing a great tsunami year after year isn't a solution. But for a while, Im had no clue, so he could only helplessly put the report back on the coffee table and pick up another report. This one was about the renovation progress of Thriller Bark. Originally, the administrative department wanted to tow it to Waters 7 and then hire the best shipwright to work on its construction. However, after inspection by professionals, it was found that its renovation actually had little to do with shipwright, but rather required a large number of construction artisan. So, this super sailing ship, which was called a ship but was the size of an island, was currently in a secret location close to the Red Line. A large number of artisan were repairing, renovating, and redecorating it. According to the plan, the Gothic castle complex on top would be painted white. The woods would also be cleared away and converted into Marines training ground and barracks, and so on. However, the construction period was a bit long, estimated to take about 6 months. This made him a little displeased. The situation at sea was becoming increasingly chaotic. Due to the rumors of the great treasure, the number of pirate had clearly increased sharply. Several Marines G branches based in the first half of the Grand Line were already extremely busy. Especially the wanted poster were being issued by the dozen. Therefore, the Reverse Mountain Navy branch base was very crucial. The next few report. There were views from Dr. Kira and many excellent doctor from Drum Kingdom regarding amber lead disease. There was also Sure Yu's performance after becoming a KNU's adjutant, and Monkey D. Dragon's letter to the 5 elders. Sure Yu's matter was insignificant, with a KNU there was no fear of not being able to keep him in check. Im paid more attention to amber lead disease and Dragon's matter. First, regarding the former, Kira and others had personally examined the situation of the patient that Cypher Pol 4 secretly sent from North Blue. They discovered that these were typical symptoms of chronic heavy metal poisoning. However, the amber lead had a strange aspect. It could actually be inherited by the next generation. Logically speaking, heavy metal poisoning is unlikely to be inherited. But this situation exists, and it's not a one-time inheritance, but continues to be inherited. However, these doctor with superb medical skill had discovered that amber lead was primarily concentrated in the patient's livers. And Dr. Kira, who was over 100 years old, personally performed surgery, attempting to remove the amber lead from the liver through miraculous surgery. However, the final result was not optimistic. Afterwards, they tried using medicine for treatment, but the existing specific medicine for heavy metal poisoning did not have ideal effect. Therefore, a new specific medicine for amber lead must be developed. The time required for this was purely unknown. Since conventional medical treatment methods don't work, why not try the extraordinary ability of devil fruit? The first thing Im thought of course, was the op fruit. Didn't the future lore rely on it for self-treatment? But now, who knows where it is in North Blue? Besides this, there was also the Paramsha system's heal fruit. This can be considered a truly suitable fruit. It can even, by consuming lifespan, restore both organic matter and inorganic matter to their original state. Even without consuming lifespan, it can heal the injuries and illnesses of all living organisms. Princess Mancherry of the Tontita tribe might not have been born yet, but I can send Cypher Pol 6 agent to Dressrosa to look for this heal fruit. Im thought contemplatively. If possible, he naturally hoped to have such an awesome devil fruit in his own hands. Moreover, the Tontita tribe themselves are also worth befriending. They are called the Green Manager, claiming that there is no plant in the world that their tribe cannot cultivate. Isn't this ability amazing? Everyone is Shannon? But the problem is, it is said that these Tontita tribe members formed a grudge with the Don Quixote family 900 years ago, so by extension, they should also have no good feelings towards other celestial dragons. This is a bit troublesome. Right, I can also look for the future Princess Viola's glint fruit. What is the concept of an observation radius of 4,000 kilometers? China in my previous life had a north-south diameter of 5,500 kilometers and an east-west diameter of 5,200 kilometers. The Pacific Ocean has an east-west width of 19,900 kilometers. This is equivalent to being able to see through 3/4 of China, or 1/5 of the Pacific Ocean with one glance. Knock knock knock, just as increasingly felt that this Dressrosa kingdom was a treasure. The door of the treehouse was gently knocked on. At the same time, the information of the person knocking appeared in his mind through observation hockey. Come in. He saw a charming maid walk in, carrying a silver wooden box, but she only dared to stand at the edge of the doorway. Lord, this is something the 5 elders asked me to hand over to you. They said Cypher Pol 5 agent found the Paramsha system's munch fruit in Drum Kingdom. Munch fruit. Im was greatly surprised and delighted in his heart. This was a good thing. Before, It was just with a what-if mindset that he instructed the 5 elders to send people to search secretly. He didn't expect it was actually found. But on the surface, he still maintained natural calmness. Put it down. Yes. The maid walked in, placed the wooden box on the coffee table, then respectfully exited the wooden house, closing the door again as she left. And Im also reached out and took out the munch fruit, squinting his eyes to examine this devil fruit that was entirely purplish red, its surface covered in black spiral patterns, and shaped like a plump eggplant. It can perfectly fuse organic matter and inorganic matter together, and can even swallow ability user to gain their ability. If this thing is used well, it is completely enough to benefit the entire civilization. But I need to carefully consider who to give it to. But then again, since the munch fruit has been found, what about that human fruit? Thinking of this made him a bit conflicted. He didn't know if he hoped to find the latter, or not. Because if it's found, wouldn't Chopper be gone? Chapter 41, Dragon's First Time. To him, the animal system, normal type human fruit wasn't anything important. The ability of this devil fruit had actually already been demonstrated based on Sengoku's performance. The animal system, human fruit, mythical zone type, Great Buddha form allows the ability user to transform into a golden Great Buddha form after consumption. Their palms can release shockwave, and besides that, they will also possess Buddha-like wisdom and spirit. Therefore, after a normal type human fruit is consumed by a normal person, aside from not having the transformation ability, its main effects are to enhance physique, intelligence, spirit, and various other aspects, turning them into a truly perfect Superman. To be honest, this devil fruit is actually more suitable for academic or research personnel rather than for combat. The key is that it's related to Chopper's birth. It's not that he wants a cute pet, but rather that according to the original timeline, Chopper will most likely develop the so-called all-purpose medicine that can cure all disease. Although it sounds incredible, this world does have some miraculous black technology, and what Im values is this all-purpose medicine. But the problem is, even if Chopper successfully eats the human fruit, without the subsequent experiences, would he still be able to develop the all-purpose medicine? Would he even think of developing the all-purpose medicine? Now the entire Drum Kingdom has undergone tremendous changes due to my interference. Even if Chopper appears, will he still be Chopper? For a moment, Im fell into deep thought. He had to admit a fact: his appearance would definitely cause the destinies of many people to change. All he could do was guide certain important figures to have a better growth environment. Im's gaze returned to the munch fruit. Logically speaking, based on the ability of this devil fruit, the most suitable first candidate for it should be Dr. Vegapunk. With it, plus some guidance from him, perhaps the pacifista and artificial devil fruit could appear earlier. But the current problem is Vegapunk's attitude towards the world government, which is still unclear. It's the same question he thought of before: why would he hide the matter of successfully replicating a perfect artificial devil fruit in the future? Let's see first, and wait a bit. Im thought for a moment, put the munch fruit back into the silver box, closed the lid, and set it aside. Then, he picked up the letter that Dragon had given to the 5 elders. After reading the contents for 2 minutes, it was indeed within expectations. Perhaps because it was his first time writing a letter, Dragon's wording was somewhat cautious. However, he clearly wasn't deep enough in scheming. As he wrote, he couldn't help but point out the world government's mistakes, and his dissatisfaction was evident on the page. The main dissatisfaction was focused on the slave aspect. This is good too. Writing a letter can be considered a release of emotions. It's better than keeping it bottled up inside. Im smiled. But they should be starting the operation over there now. I imagine that kid is quite shocked right now. However, he had to think about the arrangements for Dragon. Was it better to keep him in the Marines, or transfer him somewhere else? Marine headquarters, Maniford. 5 warship, like sea beasts, formed a triangular formation and slowly sailed out of the open giant iron gate. The rolling sea waves, crushed by their passage, formed 3 long white trails. On the deck, Monkey D. Dragon stared blankly at the gate of justice closing behind him. He still found the mission he had received this time unbelievable. As for the silent white-clothed person standing on either side, he had completely gotten used to their presence over the past few days. Dragon lowered his head again and glanced at the mission report in his hand. Mission location, Totmus Island in the South Blue. The report described it as a medium-sized island. The environment on the island was mainly desert and hills. Although it had 4 seasons, rainfall was scarce. Mission target, Tarklama, king of the Tutmos Kingdom, one of the affiliated countries under the world government. However, he did not have a seat at the reverie, making him a king with a very low sense of presence and very few citizen. However, after multiple investigations by Cypher Pol 2 agent, the strangeness of this nation was discovered a few years ago. Although it appeared to be a poor, small nation, the heavenly tribute was paid in full every year, without a single exception for decades. Furthermore, there were basically no ship movements during the day, but it would become relatively lively at night, with nearly 100 ships of various sizes entering and leaving. Moreover, they were dispersed among over a dozen ports on the island, which is why relatively was used to describe it. Recently, Cypherpol 2 agent finally made a major discovery, uncovering the second identity of this Tarklama kingdom. The slave king of the darkness world. The entire Tutmos kingdom was the world's largest slave supply station and the world's largest kidnapping group. It had tens of thousands of slave catchers scattered across various sea area, engaging in long-term criminal activities such as abduction, kidnapping, and fraud. They would even conduct thorough sweeps of villages with sparse population. There was also a slave guard legion of about 30,000 on the homeland. It is said that Cypherpol 2 agent paid the sacrifice of over a dozen members to investigate the main facilities and personnel of this Tarklama kingdom. They were actually located inside the island. There were hundreds of large prison cells used to confine slave, and it was estimated that there were hundreds of thousands of captured slave. It can be said that this kingdom actually had no concept of citizen, and even the concept of a king was very vague, because they operated under a very professional company system. Within his own island, Tarklama preferred to be called boss by his subordinates, rather than king. Therefore, calling them employee is more accurate than calling them citizen. The mission objective this time was to capture King Tarklama. If other criminals resisted, they were permitted to be killed on the spot, and all the slave were to be rescued. It also stated that the rescued slave would be organized by the administrative department, leading nearby kingdom to mobilize ship, food, doctor, and other resources, and finally send them back to their hometown. In Dragon's opinion, the world government's plan was already complete enough. He just needed to lead the fleet and win this battle. But the more complete it was, the more confused and puzzled he became. Is this really the world government? The world government that in his eyes was rotten beyond redemption and completely devoid of benevolence? This is too much justice. But regardless, it was indeed a great thing. Dragon was genuinely willing to work hard for it, even if it was just for the hundreds of thousands of suffering slave. It's worth mentioning that this was his first time serving as commander, leading a fleet to execute a large-scale military mission. Mary Joyce, inside the room of authority, the 5 elders were gathered together. The fleet led by Dragon has departed. Saint Shepherd Jupiter, the youngest, said with a smile. Saint Topman Warkery, sitting in the center, stroked his bald head and looked at him sternly, saying, "Sending only Dragon, a rear admiral, for this operation, I still feel it's not quite appropriate. According to intelligence, that King Tarklama's strength is not weak, and he also has a legion of over 30,000. As for the 2 Cypherpol 0 agent who went along, they couldn't be considered combat power at all. Their mission was to keep an eye on Dragon, they wouldn't concern themselves with anything else. Even if the entire fleet was wiped out, they would only take Dragon and leave. It should be fine. After all, he's Garp's son and possesses the hurricane fruit ability. It's not like he can't even handle a slave king." Saint Ethenbren Venus Giro said casually. He was carefully using tweezers to hold cotton dipped in talcum powder, gently tapping it onto the blade of Shodai Kaitetsu bit by bit to absorb the excess blade oil. Moreover, according to the intelligence sent by Cypherpol 5 agent, Garp, who said he was going back to the East Blue for a trip, suddenly changed course and entered the South Blue ahead of time. Saint Shepherd Jupiter said, looking somewhat amused and helpless. Hearing this, Saint Jaga Ursha Saturn burst into hearty laughter. He really doesn't hide anything at all. As expected of Garp. At the same time, the other 5 elders said no more. With Garp already there, what was there to worry about? Worry about 30,000 troops? However, Doflamingo provided excellent intelligence this time. If it weren't for him, we really wouldn't have found the lair of this darkness world slave king. Chapter 42, Malice from Fishman District. Fishman Island, Ryugu Kingdom, Reception Hall. Although I don't know why the Marines specifically requested the 2 of you as important fishmen, since they have made such a request, and considering this rare friendly cooperation between humans and our Fishman Island, as king, I hope the 2 of you can consider agreeing. King Neptune sat on his throne, sincerely expressing his request to Genbi and Aladdin, who were wearing Sea King army uniforms below the platform, rather than issuing a direct order with the dominance of a king. Genbi and Aladdin exchanged glances, both seeing the determination in the other's eyes. Then, with great tacit understanding, they spoke in unison. Your Majesty, we are willing to accept the Marines' invitation and contribute our strength to the equal friendship between fishmen and humans. Ha 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 ha. King Neptune was greatly pleased upon hearing this and let out a hearty laugh, saying, "That's wonderful, thank you, I'm truly grateful." He then personally introduced the details. According to the Marines, After the two of you go to Manaford, Jinbi, you will receive the military rank of Headquarters Lieutenant Colonel and serve as the commander of the newly formed Fishman Unit. Aladdin will be a Headquarters Major and serve as the adjutant of the Fishman Unit. The two of you will also be responsible for teaching Fishman karate to the Marines at Headquarters. At the same time, the Marine branch here will teach swordsmanship to our Sea King Army, which also represents one of the practical aspects of equal cooperation. Hearing this, Jinbi said with some hesitation. Your Majesty, with my level of Fishman karate, it might be difficult to teach much. Compared to me, Brother Tiger is more qualified. He was 22 years old this year, and his strength was indeed somewhat lacking, but saying he couldn't teach Fishman karate to the Marines was purely self-deprecation. Fisher Tiger, but didn't he go out on an adventure again? He hasn't returned yet. King Neptune said helplessly. When he returns, I will talk to him properly. Perhaps, you two might meet in Marineford then. For now, Jinbi, you will be responsible during this period, all right? Yes, Your Majesty, I will do my best. Seeing the king like this, Jinbi no longer declined. Aladdin, who was standing beside him, had even fewer opinions. He and Jinbi were already good friends and were well aware that there was a significant gap between them in terms of both talent and strength. However, he was quite interested in human swordsmanship. Your Majesty. Just then, the catfish merman left minister walked in. King Neptune smiled and said, Left Minister, is there something else? Your Majesty, the administrative department construction team sent by the world government has decided on the location for the Marine branch and is beginning construction. Oh, where is it? King Neptune asked curiously. Jinbi and Aladdin also paid attention. Near Mermaid Cove. The reason given is that pirates' main target is mermaids, so setting up the Marine branch there makes it convenient to protect the mermaids nearby. Moreover, that area is on the surface, where the sunlight is relatively bright, making it suitable for human life. The left minister said. On this Fishman Island, from top to bottom, it is divided into the noble district where Ryugu Palace is located, the commoner district on the surface, and the dark district underwater. It is clear that the main factor distinguishing these levels is sunlight. The closer to the sunlight, the nobler the place. King Neptune smiled and said. They chose a good location. All right, let's do that. Let our artisans go over and help. The world government people might not be familiarized with the environment here. Yes, Your Majesty. The left minister received the order and was about to go handle it when a Sea King army warrior ran in, then knelt down towards King Neptune and reported loudly. Your Majesty, an incident occurred at Mermaid Cove where fishmen maliciously attacked the human construction team. What? King Neptune, the left minister, Jinbi, and the others were all greatly shocked. Everyone knew that if it was too serious, they would likely face the world government's wrath and sanctions next. Although the world government's attitude had been much friendlier recently, this did not mean they had overlooked their past dominance and arrogance. Left minister, quickly take some people to check. Yes, this subject will go now. The left minister had a reaction and quickly responded. At this moment, Jinbi, who was nearby, spoke up. Your Majesty, could the two of us also go and see? Yes, since the Marines value the two of you, your presence will definitely help. King Neptune was a little flustered at this time. Soon, the left minister led Jinbi, Aladdin, and a team of 30 Sea King army warriors to the commoner district. Only King Neptune and the Sea King army standing guard on either side remained in the main hall. I hope nothing major happened. A sigh spread through the extremely luxurious Ryugu Palace. 20 minutes ago, Mermaid Cove. As the administrative department construction team selected the location, hundreds of human workers wearing uniforms began to tidy and organize the construction site environment. At the same time, they used vehicles to pull pieces of mechanical equipment from the ship. Such a lively atmosphere naturally attracted the attention and curiosity of many mermaids and fishmen nearby. They had never seen so many humans since they were born. What are those iron-plating monsters? They even make rumbling sounds. They're all wearing the same clothing, just like the Sea King army. How interesting. I heard they are from the world government and even sent back our compatriots who were captured before. But what are they doing? Beautiful mermaids, with lovely faces and graceful figures, were either immersed in the lake or sitting sideways on seashells, their beautiful eyes observing the coming and going construction team and the Marines responsible for security nearby. At the same time, more and more fishmen who heard the news and wanted to come and see gradually gathered. Their forms appeared rougher and more bizarre, and their body sizes had almost no standard. Some were 3 or 4 meters tall, while others were only 1 or 2 meters. But what these mermaids and fishmen didn't notice was that their presence was also a rare visual feast for the construction team, Marines, and other humans. The mermaids in the cove, for these humans who were basically all male, were simply like being in a dream from a fairy tale, truly breathtakingly beautiful. The key was that the former were all wearing bikinis. As for the fishmen, they just glanced at them briefly, understanding that there were such bizarre-looking creatures in this world, and then their gaze continued to focus on the mermaids. This led to neither the construction team workers nor the marine soldiers noticing some of the gazes filled with malice and contempt among the fishman crowd. Arlong, why are there so many of these humans, these lower species appearing? Chu, who had a protruding mouth and was a kissing gurumi, spoke in a low voice with great disgust, one hand in his shorts pocket. Indeed, what are those Sea King army doing? Kirubi, who had a pair of large fins on his strong arms, was also equally dissatisfied. It must be that Ryugu Palace has reached some cooperation with these lower species. Arlong, who was 17 years old this year, clenched his fists in anger, his eyes somewhat red. They were all orphans who grew up in the Fishman district of the Dark District, abandoned by their parents. Therefore, they had been exposed to the darkest side of both the environment and human nature since childhood. Especially Arlong, who yearned for sunlight and all the beauty rumored to be in a human world when he was a child. But as he grew up, the humans he saw were all evil, despicable, and even cowardly. He gradually accepted the view that humans were a lower race and fishmen were a higher race, feeling that such weak creatures, these lower species, were simply not worthy of enjoying those beautiful things, and did not even have the qualification to be equal with fishmen. We can't let them succeed, we must stop all of this. Arlong said his decision fiercely to his young companions around him, who were only 16 or 17 years old. Chapter 43, Arlong trampled underfoot. What should we do, Arlong? Yeah, just tell us what to do, and we'll do it. Arlong swept his gaze over Hiki, Chu, Kirubi, and the others, pleased that they were so supportive. He then lowered his voice and gave instructions. There are 8 of us in total. Hiki, Chu, and Kirubi will follow me and deal with the Marines. Kingen, Yakisoba, Ajo, and Bisra, you split into 2 groups. 2 of you are responsible for destroying the equipment, and 2 are responsible for attacking the workers. Remember, be fast, and pay attention to the sound from my side. As soon as you hear the word withdraw, jump into the water immediately and return to Fishman District. Understand? In Arlong's view, humans were simply too weak and only occupied most of the world because of their numbers. More importantly, they couldn't breathe underwater, so as long as they retreated into the water, humans would be helpless. Understood? Haki, Kirubi, and the other fishmen nodded in unison. As for the danger of this operation, they didn't take it to heart at all. A fishman's strength is 10 times that of a human, this is common sense. Not to mention, these individuals were even stronger than average fishmen. The only things worth noting were the muskets in the hands of humans and how to avoid being captured by the Sea King army afterward. Soon, the 8 individuals split into 2 waves. One wave quietly circled around to the other side of the crowd, preparing for a pincer attack. At this moment, teams of construction team workers, carrying toolboxes and following the vehicle, slowly headed towards the construction site under the gaze of a large number of mermaids and fishmen. Including the Marines responsible for security, no one expected any accidents to occur. The screen feed of this mermaid cove was simply too beautiful. Some Marine soldiers even inadvertently exchanged a gaze with a beautiful mermaid miss, and both sides blushed shyly. Mermaids were curious about humans, and humans were equally curious about mermaids. As for fishmen, oh, that should be called a morbid curiosity. Go. Just then, an unexpected event occurred. 4 burly black shadows leaped out from the fishman crowds on both sides, charging with full malice towards the vehicles and workers in the middle of the road. Who's there? Stop. The surrounding Marine soldiers were all from Maniford. Even if they were slightly relaxed, it wasn't excessively so. They immediately raised their guns or drew their blades, attempting to intercept the attackers. At the same time, Arlong, Haki, Chu, and Kirubi took advantage of everyone's attention being focused on Kingen and the other 4, and violently attacked without hesitation. Bang! Almost simultaneously, 4 Marine soldiers were heavily struck. They only managed to let out a scream before collapsing to the ground. Some fell unconscious on the spot, while others clutched their painful spots and wailed. Ah, it's the Arlong pirates. Why are they doing this? The surrounding mermaids and fishmen exclaimed continuously. Some who recognized Arlong and the others even showed disgusted gazes. These 8 individuals had been causing trouble frequently since a few years ago and had long been regarded as gangsters by the citizens of Fishman Island. However, facing such a violent situation, they no longer dared to watch and quickly scattered. Some, fearing trouble, jumped into the water and swam away quickly. As a result, the situation at the scene became even more chaotic. In just under a minute, over 10 construction team workers were attacked, and an excavator marked with the world government symbol was pushed over by Joe and Bisra with their bare hands. Immediately after, they punched and blew out a tire. Take them down. The Marines in the distance discovered the situation and were rapidly providing support. Arlong, noticing this, knocked down 4 more Marine soldiers and roared, "Withdraw!" As soon as he finished speaking, he turned without hesitation, ready to escape. But just then, the closer Marines had arrived. A whistle sounded. A burly Marine, wearing the same blue pants as the Marine soldiers on his lower body, but a fitted yellow t-shirt on his upper body, plus a white vest and a Marine cap, and standing about 1 meter 80 centimeters tall, approached Arlong with swift speed. At the same time, his right fist, already charged with force and wearing cold iron knuckles, pierced through the air towards Arlong's face. Hey Arlong looked disdainfully at the short human in his eyes. Although he was only 17 years old, his talent as a saw shark fishman gave him a height of 2 meters 40 centimeters.